We are your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Well, this afternoon, MPP flag bearer hopeful and former Minister of Agriculture Brian A Champong turned to the church for divine guidance as he readies to officially declare his presidential bid. His close aides hinted that the much-anticipated announcement could come within the next 10 days. As supporters await the big moment, the leadership of the Presbyterian Church has offered prayers in support of his ambition. This move comes barely 24 hours after Dr Balmia rallied over 200 former MMDCs in a major push for the same flag bearership slot, setting the stage for a heated contest within the MPP, as other aspirants have also intensified their campaigns across the country. We'll be back to delve into this further, but first, watch this, the moment where prayers were offered on his behalf.
Your own, for thine is the kingdom, yes, the power, and the glory. Forever and ever. No one shares the glory with you. You created your world and made humanity in your own image and gave humanity power and authority to care for your creation. It is in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Go according to the courage and vision that the Lord has placed in you, and do it. God be your helper. Amen.
Amen.
It's a good time to cross over to my colleague, Ken Jesse, who is on this beat for us. Ken, this prayer session, is this a subtle endorsement of Brian A Champong by the Presbyterian Church?
Brian A Champons may not be attend, and he also said that he went to the Presbyterian Boys School. So this is a symbolism, really, that this is my church, and I'm here to formally inform you that I'm contesting. And of course, after that, prayers were offered to Brian A Champong. He formally declared that he is contesting for the flag bearer position of the new Patriotic Party. Well, you remember weeks ago, he came out to say that he has formed an exploratory committee to assess whether or not he should contest, after he said that he had received several calls from members within the party to consider contesting. So he has finally declared that he is going to contest the flag bearer position of the new Patriotic Party, which comes off on the 31st of January. So these prayers were just symbolic that he says he's a member, a devout member of the Presbyterian Church of Ghana, and he wanted to formally inform the church of his intention and decision to contest for the flag bearer position of the new Patriotic Party before making it public. So really, you saw the moderator of the Presbyterian Church and other leaders of the church offering prayers.
Ken, you've also been engaging Brian A Champong himself. What has he been saying?
A gesture being offered by the committee that... Hello, Faustina?
I can hear you, Ken, loud and clear. You've been engaging Brian A Champong. What exactly has he been saying?
Well, Brian A Champong says the findings of his exploratory committee setup is out, and he said that the findings pointed that the new Patriotic Party needed a new that was only a fresh way. And upon sober reflection on those findings, he believes that he is the right person to build a new Patriotic Party.
But then we heard from Dr. Yao just yesterday.
And offered himself as a potential candidate to lead the new Patriotic Party in the new...
Oh dear, our connection to Kenneth doesn't seem quite favorable, but let's listen to Brian A Champong himself. We'll be back to engage Kenneth just further.
I am a product of the church, servant of the church. A month ago, I set up an exploratory committee. A week ago, they brought home their report. We've reviewed the report. Largely aligns with what I set out. There were a few things that I also have to align with the party and then with the aspirations of the country. But as said, the important point is that the conclusion of the report suggested that there was a need to have a different candidate that can galvanize the party, unite the party. There was also a need for that candidate to be able to demonstrate and give hope to the young people of this country that through their vision they're able to create jobs for the youth of the country, provide security, and revamp the infrastructure of this country. And so with that said, the decision has been made that I will contest when the party opens nominations, but to do that as a product of the church. It will be a disappointment in my tradition for the moderator of the church or the Presbyterian General Council hears it for the first time already. So before a formal announcement is made, I thought it wise to come and inform the General Council and the moderator of the Presbyterian Church that this is what I have set out to do. And so when they hear the announcement, then that is it. But most importantly,
you heard that Brian A Champong. Now let me bring in Kenneth Jesse. I have better connection to him now. He's joining this time via phone. Kenneth, who exactly did you see on the grounds that is already pledging allegiance to Brian A Champong?
We have former MPs Dixon Kusi, and also
Hello, Kenneth. Oh dear, it appears that
so he and Feain, former members of parliament, were the most notable people that we saw there flanking him. They were part of that exploratory committee.
Kenneth, still your connection is poor and I'm struggling to make out what exactly you're saying. If you could just position rightly and try once more as we look at some of the key individuals who are already pledging allegiance to Brian A Champong. Once we get better connection to you, Kenneth, I'll come back to you. But let me bring in political analyst Asa Asante just to get a sense of his thoughts of what is happening in the party. So far, we have heard from the camp of Brian A Champong, Kennedy Agyemang, Dr Balmia, as well as Edukor, all signaling their interest in the flag bearership race. I'm sure it's going to be a heated contest. From where you sit, what are your chances, really?
I think, Sarah, is a very interesting development. It's unfortunate that the rules that the party set, they have allowed certain individuals to allow them. But that aside, it's their own problem. They will deal with that because there's no point setting rules and you allow it to be undermined. Then it gives people the courage to take the conversation to another level. That said, the contest is going to be interesting. Now that I've started visiting churches, MDAs are also paying homage to some of the contestants, and people are now moving heaven and earth to get support. It's interesting because, the name of the game is what numbers. It's number game. So those with the numbers are able to galvanize a lot of support and use it to their advantage. But you and I know that it's not just the number, but those who have the political authority to elect the leaders. That is one. And then who are the leaders that they want? It doesn't matter whether somebody visits a church, MPs visit place that supports him or not. What matters is that the person that they are rooting for is knowledgeable related to the problems that we have in this country, that has what it to be able to address them if the mantle falls on him or her. 2, is the person marketable? Can he or she stand toe to toe with any person from any political quarter to contest for election and win for his party? Of course, this also dovetails into the popularity of that individual. Is the individual popular to have a lot of following who will sway the vote in one direction for him? And of course, we also want somebody who is experienced, who will lead the party, and he has the magic one to turn things around based on his wealth of experience. And above all, the person must have record, not necessarily in government, where you have worked privately or where you have engaged yourself outside the political realm. That record is necessary because people want to see if you are giving the whole opportunity of the state to govern. Can you have any expertise or any knowledge or background that can be brought to light on the matter that confronts us? And these are the people that voters want to vote for. But now, they will continue to undertake group trotting, going to shrines, churches, and all that. By the end of the day, it is those who have the power to lead in the votes and to, vote on that day are those who cause the biggest upset. But for now, it is just one of the process. And they are gingering up their bases and all that. But the real political power lies the delegates who have the power to decide in one direction.
And that brings me to my next question. You say that is a numbers game, and indeed power resides in the hands of the delegate. But over the years, the term fear delegates have taught us that the delegates tend to sway towards individuals that have more cash on their hands. Looking at what the party seeks to achieve in the year 2028, let's take it candidate by candidate. Dr. Mahmud Balmia, what exactly does it bring on board?
Balmia, there's no doubt in my mind that he's a fine scholar, knowledgeable, he knows the subject. It's unfortunate that during his tenure, we didn't see much of him in terms of his knowledge that one would have thought that it would be brought to bear on the economic situation at the time. But when he was in office, events took a different turn, and as if he was outside the economic realm. That was unfortunate. If you also look at him, in spite of all the strength I've said, is it the case that the voters are forgiving him his sins by the loss, the gargantuan margin of loss that he suffered in the last election, that they want to also repose their confidence in him for the second one? He needs to be able to do so session and to be able to step in the place and step forward to contest. Because from where I sit, it's a very difficult battle because for him, the last election, the results went so negative against him. So one would have thought that he would have taken some, time off to reflect on all these, including some homework, so that he can appeal to the people one more time. But hey, he also has the right to contest and see what happens. If you look at Brian A Champong, he has been one of the faithful servants of the party. He has worked his heart and mind out for his party, stand for them in all times. For this race, he is a beginner in the race, but he's not a minnow. But the issue is that as to whether people will decide to give him the vote is another. Because from where I sit, I don't see his strong areas that he has been showing. Of course, he comes from Eastern region, so you can see support in there. But as to whether he's a towering personality to be able to stand neck to neck with the giants within the party, that's another thing. But I have no doubt in my mind that he's a fine gentleman and he has a very unblemished record. You look at Kennedy Japan, very, very affable. He has all the qualities, and of course, we also know his weakness and all that. But if you look at it, the last election primaries, the kind of performance he put up against the establishment candidates, you realize that this year, where there's no establishment candidates, you can see the mess in Kennedy Agyemang. He will fire on all cylinders and make sure that he comes first. But as to whether he will be able to win the election is also that is the difficult battle for all of them. But I can tell you that Kennedy is a man to watch, and then he has a lot of things that really move and shake the foundation of the party. I have no doubt in my mind, even though I concede that he has certain weaknesses that he needs to work on and all that. And those things will find expression in the election. If you look at Dr. Yao, fine gentleman, he demonstrated his prowess when given opportunity to serve in education ministry. At a point in time, he was the household name of every section of the Ghanaian society because of a lot of programs that he introduced and all that. But as whether he is that strong enough to be able to contest the election, because the last primary, you saw that he didn't have very strong showing, you know, but giving his impeccable records, his credentials and all that, the contest promises to be very interesting, and he can also move through the process. I've not heard of Brian Champong, another fine gentleman, very well experienced, and he has the oratory skills. He is knowledgeable, and he has had his eyes on the ball for a very long time. And I don't know whether he will contest, but if he will contest, that's another fine gentleman that the public can also engage and have meaningful conversation. Yes, is one of the pillars within the party in terms of gravity, in terms of knowledge, experience. He has. And I can say without fear of contradiction that he has over and above a lot of the people who want to contest. And if you look at the last election, even though it didn't go down well in the primaries within the MPP for him, but Champong, fine gentleman, and he has a very clean record and wealth of experience. And at this time, the party needs people with experience. We need people with tact. We need people with gravitas, and people who have the courage to stand on their foot and then tell people in their face that this is not the way to go. But Champong has that.
Doc, stay with me. I'll come back to you just to get your thoughts on something that has been bugging my mind. It's one thing to lead the party, it's another thing to capture power. And so we'll get into the dynamics of that and how exactly they can go about it. But let me bring in someone from Brian A Champong's camp, Andy Apiakubi. You saw him in that video standing behind Brian A Champong. It's beginning to make sense now where he is, and he's joining us live here on The Pulse. We've just heard from your candidate signaling his readiness to hit the ground running. We've heard from him tell us that he's given us a timeline within the next 10 days. He would officially declare. What's your campaign strategy?
The campaign strategy, as outlined by our affable Dr. Brian Champons, has been to consult with leadership of the party, leadership of the country, the clergy, and also other stakeholders. That is what he has done in the last few weeks. After commissioning the research team, the research team have also submitted their report to him, and there is every indication that there is favorable responses from the consultations that was undertaken, and that he is making up his mind to contest. And today, in fact, I listened to him today as he granted the interview after his consultation with his Presbyterian church, which he is a member, and went for prayers and also for direction from God. And after the interaction with the Presbyterian church, he declared that he will contest the upcoming election. And the strategy has always been to consult, mobilize support, also contact interest groups, and also leaders of various institutions and indeed the chieftain's institution and the clergy, and we are still going to consult all such institutions and seeking their support and their direction.
But your client, and I would say Dr. Brian, is quite green when it comes to the flag bearership race. He's going against Dr. Balmia, who has been vice president, led the party and lost the previous election, was also the face of the party's thank you tour, and he's going against some key contenders like Kennedy Agyemang, who has been in the race before, and we saw his following in the past. What difference is he bringing on board to sway delegates on his side?
I wish you didn't say he's green in politics. Dr. Champong has been a four-term member of parliament.
Yeah, he's green when it comes to the flag bearership race.
Yes, but there is always a first time. And you garner experience from the spectrum of political activities in the country, not only in the context of flag bearership. And therefore, if we are talking about experience in politics, I am sure that the names you have mentioned will not come close to him. Because just contesting in one particular election doesn't give you the experience that he has, having contested on 4 different occasions to qualify to parliament. So I don't buy your prescription of green in politics. I think that he has the requisite experience, the knowledge, and the network in politics for him to be able to succeed. We will be very happy if other people will consider him as a novice in politics. They will also package the surprises for them. So if that is the feeling of other contestants, we will be happy and we will enjoy our status and use the platform that we have to win against all such complacent feelings.
But how do you plan to win the delegates on your side? Because this is a numbers game, and the delegates are the ones with the power to decide. They've already been meeting different groups, and your contender is already a little bit late in declaring his bid. So what's the strategy?
Well, meeting different groups in the open is different from meeting different groups in private, and soliciting their support and mandate also in the quiet. Our strategy is not to just advertise before you even implement the strategy. Our portion is to implement the strategy to generate the results for us. So it is not a case that we have not been in contact with delegates in the upcoming election. It is just that we have met a lot of people, we have compared with them, we have solicited their support, and some of them are already been working for us. But again, this is only just the beginning. You know that when we have not declared our Dr. Brian Champons in the latest bill was created as second only one person. And having declared for our bid now and the plan that we have to go to prison, meet with the delegates, I'm sure that in the next month or so, you will see that the situation will have been very different. We know that we are starting as probably the second as the latest opinion poll, but in about a month, we are very sure to regain and recover the grounds and be in the lead.
You are starting the race with spiritual fortification, but then should elections be held in the next few months, what percentage win are you looking forward to raking?
All that I can say in response to your question is that we are getting ready to win. We have started the race, and we will definitely win. But I cannot put figures to it. We'll win and win well. And you see, starting with the status that and the numbers that we have, it's only the reason that the numbers will appreciate, and in due course, we will be in the lead.
But are you threatened by your other opponents?
How would we be threatened when we have started with our belief in God, having obtained the fortification and the spiritual guidance and the blessing of the Lord to start a journey that takes us to nearly 8 months. Victory is only waiting for us. So I will not be intimidated by anybody's presence. Neither am I going to consider how strong somebody is. We are going to develop our own strength and market that. And we are very hopeful that in the course of the interaction with the people, they will understand our message and they will understand our brand and they will go with us. And, you know, they are also going to be our ambassadors. So not only are such people going to vote for us, they are also going to propagate the gospel of Brian Champong. And in the Lord, we have faith and we have hope that at the end of the day, we will be victorious.
Now, Brian A Champong played a key role in Wuntumi's release, securing him that much-needed bail. And you were also lawyer for Wuntumi. Is Wuntumi on your camp?
I wouldn't be able to say so at this point in time. But there is a saying that says, one good turn deserves another. So it is my expectation that Chairman Wuntumi will recognize the role that Dr. Brian Champong played in his political life and reward him appropriately.
But you have other contenders willing to snatch him. Won't you solidify things here and now? Tell me exactly, is Wuntumi in Brian A Champong's camp?
Well, if you want to find out where he is, I'm sure he is the best person to, raise the conversation with. But what I can say is that Chairman Wuntumi, as I know, did appreciate what Dr. Brian Champong did for him. And indeed, he paid a courtesy call on him to express his appreciation. And I'm sure that, having seen what he has done for you, it only stands to reason that you return the goodwill.
But you're very close to him. Are other camps making advances at Wuntumi?
Well, it will be surprising if other camps don't make the move. But it depends on where his heart will be. And I am sure that at the end of the day, his heart will be for Dr. Brian Champong at the end of the day. But he will be the rightful person to confirm this belief.
But let's look at your campaign schedule. We know that Brian has been meeting some chiefs and what have not. What's next on the radar and what exactly have they been telling him?
You said Brian has done what? I'm
told that Brian has been engaging some chiefs in the area just to declare his position and his decision to run for the flag bearership race.
With all stakeholders.
Okay.
Indeed, chieftaincy, yes, we are touching base with the chiefs. In religion, we are touching base with the religious leaders. And in universities, we are touching base with the students. Okay. So I'm very sure that by the time Dr. Brian Champong goes round within the month, the story will be different.
Okay. Thank you so much, Andy Apiakubi. From the camp of Dr. Brian A Champong, officially, he will be declaring his decision to run for that flag bearership race. We're told within the next 10 years, but he's already engaging key individuals that he feels can help him, solidify his stance in the party. He's been meeting with some of the pastors who have declared some strong prayers for him as he starts the race. But let me finalize with Dr. Asa Asante as we look at the internal race and the quest to win power in 2028. Is one thing to decide that you're in the race and the people in terms of the New Patriotic Party can decide to give you a nod. But then how do you feel the contest would be in 2028 where you have two political parties against themselves this time? Do you think the NPP stands a chance?
It's early days yet.
Okay.
But remember that you are talking about political parties in Ghana. There are only two dominant ones.
Yeah.
The rest are what? Minor parties. So it's either NDC or MPP.
Yeah.
But MPP has records, and then they will stand on it to campaign. In Ghana, election is driven by records. That is a fact. NDC is also associated with a lot of records, and they are in government. Incumbency advantage is also there. And they are also working. We are here to see the details of their performance and all that. But so far, so good. That aside, what really moves election in Ghana is nothing but what bread and butter issue, the economy. So we want to see among the two parties, which of them has what it takes to turn the economic fortunes round, to make people smile and have means of livelihood. That is a game changer. And I expect that the two parties will have to work on that and come and convince us as to who we need to give our mandate to 2028.
Thank you so much, Dr. Asante, a political analyst. Join us here on The Pulse. Well, the campaign of Dr. Yao Edukor, former Minister for Education and Member of Parliament for Obusuntri constituency, for the new Patriotic Party flag bearership position is gaining momentum in the Ashanti region. A group of traders at the railway market in Kumasi has publicly endorsed Dr. Edukor's bid, signaling growing support for his candidacy. Agyemang has more in the following report.
The declaration by Dr. Yao Edukor has received widespread commendation, with the market women being the latest to solicit support for the lawmaker. At a press conference, the traders gave various reasons for their choice, with the performance as Education Minister taking center stage.
Obaba Deputy Education Minister, substantive minister.
We all saw his performance as a deputy education minister. Many clamored for him to be made a minister, and it came through. He placed emphasis on STEM, and his knowledge in education is unparalleled.
Because we be near to free Ghana, I got to America. Not to me, I could be a school, I can see me and so I'm a school, not a tomb, America, buy a bonnet, but not just say Papano or when him there.
Delegates in only a ceremony.
The delegates shouldn't think of their selfish interests. The country should be put first, and Dr. Edukor is the right person.
Said your man, you bet the and at a family, you bought. Or say Yao Edukor basso.
Yeka. What the buy and Colay and Shusha Growna as Sabunya Gan and Yakramonia Shushan. Will be adding the back.
Nana Akufo-Addo aimed at ensuring all our children attend secondary school, and Dr. Edukor made the dream a reality.
Mamma let the grass up in your back and Nana do the policy permus or the bar. Bedio man penny, no. I'm password was say ya warrior. I must sabi if you be a murama. 1 year kwano. Dr.
Edukor assumed the role of Education Minister in the previous NPP government's second term, overseeing the program when students' population had increased. Under his watch as Minister, technical and vocational education and training became an area of interest for the government. In the period, some innovations were implemented to revamp the TVET sector, including the introduction of various career pathways such as pre-engineering courses for non-science students. Already, the NPP presidential candidate for the 2024 general election, Dr. Mahmud Balmia, who served as vice president under Akufo-Addo administration, is in the race to be re-elected. Other personalities like Kennedy Agyemang and Brian A Champong have declared intentions to contest. For Joy News, Agyemang, Kumasi.
Away from politics, the Ghana Education Service is asking picketing teachers to remain patient and cooperate with it, as it is working closely with the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Finance to solve current impasse between them. Well, a group of newly trained teachers on Monday, we know, picketed the GES headquarters in Accra, demanding payment of salary arrears spanning more than 10 months. GES, in a statement, said a technical committee, including representatives from the aggrieved teachers, has been set up to improve communication and coordination through the resolution process. We'll get details of that statement from GES shortly, but first, let's listen to some of the teachers who picketed the ministry earlier.
In front of the Ministry of Education with the newly posted teachers from the colleges of education. They picketed at the ministry yesterday, and they're still here. They didn't get any response from the ministry. Some of them slept here last night through to this morning, and they're still here. We want to engage and find out from them the situation so far, whether they've heard from the leadership, from the ministry, or what is the way forward. So first of all, your name and how has it been so far? You slept here last night?
Yeah, we slept here last night. First of all, my name is David Ofusudako, and I'm part of the leadership of our colleagues who do not have staff IDs, who have been working for the past 10 months without salaries or any allowance or anything. So we've been here. Yesterday, we submitted an official petition to the Ghana Education Service. The PRO accepted it on behalf of the Director General. A copy of this petition, we sent that of the Ministry of Education DS to them, and they've also accepted or received it. We are hoping to hear from the minister. We're hoping to hear that some actions have been taken regarding the petition we sent to them.
But yesterday, when you sent the petition to them, what actually was entailed in the petition that you gave them?
Oh, actually, what was entailed is simple. We've been working for 10 months. We're going through some kind of hardship. Yeah. We rented just a year, and then our rent will be due in September, because we went last year September. And then as of now, we do not have monies to renew even our rent. By September, if we do not have money, we don't think we can still be opposed, because our landlords will be chasing us out. Some of us have arrears or some debt to pay regarding utility bills in our various homes. Me in question, I owe about 7 months of electricity bill, which is not good. So we are here to tell them we're going through a lot, and we cannot take it anymore. We're here to demand our staff IDs and salaries.
You just become traumatized in the sense that when you recall the kind of pain you've gone through from college up to this level, and you still kind of depend on parents and other people for survival, is so disturbing. So we always ponder on this, and it becomes so sad. Going to school becomes so difficult to even deliver to the learners. So we hope that out of this, there's a good outcome.
These are the demands from these teachers, and just as they said, they're not leaving the premises until they get a positive feedback from the Ministry of Education. Reporting for Joy News, I'm Jacqueline Ansuma Yeboah.
My colleague Jacqueline interacting with some of the aggrieved teachers. But on your screens now is coming up is that statement from GES, just highlighting some of the key things they've done so far. It states that GES wishes to update the affected teachers and general public on the efforts underway to resolve the situation. They go on to state some of the key things they're doing when it comes to the inherited issue. They say that currently, GES management inherited the challenge of an expired financial clearance, which directly impacted the timeline process of these teachers' salaries. The clearance, which permitted their payment, expired on the 31st of December 2024. It goes on to say that despite inheriting this situation, GES has been working diligently to secure a new financial clearance. And they go on to state that they are pleased to confirm that the Ministry of Finance has made a budgetary provision for these teachers and others in 2025 national budget. They go on to state they are optimistic that the necessary funds will be released soon. No timeline there, but soon, to facilitate these payments. And we have GS in the studio, so we'll be putting the question to them as to exactly what that timeline is. Now, when it comes to collaborative resolution, they go on to state that to fast-track the resolution process, a technical committee has been formed, including 5 representatives from the affected teachers. This committee is actively collaborating with GES management and has already made significant progress. They go on to state that while we are committed to resolving the issue, the GES appeals for coordinated, unified and consistent representation from the teachers. The frequent emergence of new groups with shifting leadership makes it challenging to track concerns effectively and ensure progress. And we'll put that question to him in the studio as we look at some of the key concerns being raised by GES. They are worried about the front of the striking unions and some of the key challenges they are facing is that they have different leadership coming up at different time, making it challenging to track the concerns effectively. Let's move on. Now, when it comes to teacher welfare, they're going to state that the current leadership of GS has made teacher welfare and career progress a top priority. Since assuming office, we are dedicated to ensuring that all staff are appropriately placed and compensated for their invaluable contribution. To date, over 50,000 teaching and non-teaching staff have received their due promotions, been placed on appropriate salary scales, and are receiving their corresponding entitlement. They go on to state that work is also ongoing to process the long overdue promotions of teachers due for rank of deputy director, many of whom have been on the same rank for over 10 years. Well, let's broaden the conversation here on the pulse. Joining me in the studio is Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Education Service, Daniel Feain. We appreciate your time here on the pulse.
Thank you for having me.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Let's start with some of the key concerns being raised by the teachers and how you're looking to address it. You say you inherited an expired, what's the term you use in your statement?
Clearance.
Clearance. And then where are you so far based on your statement? You say you're already working on it. So where are you?
Okay, so indeed, I should confirm that the management of Ghana Education Service has clarity on the concerns of our dear teachers.
Okay.
Their concerns are primarily two. Number one is that their salaries should be paid them. And then two, there are a couple of the teachers whose staff IDs have not been generated for them. So these are the two primary concerns of our teachers. We understand their issue, we understand their concerns. In fact, as we have already stated, we inherited this challenge. So these are colleges of education teachers who were recruited last year. In fact, even reported to duty in September 2024. And then by December, 9,000, so there were 12,807 in all who were recruited from the colleges of education. By December 2024, 9,950 had received their staff IDs and their salaries. So for them, they do not have any issues. They are currently at their various places of posting, working strongly for the country. But there are some remaining issues, outstanding issues. One is that 2,113 of these teachers received their staff IDs but could not get their salaries paid to them as of the end of December 2024. And then 582 of them did not receive their staff IDs and then did not receive their salaries. Unfortunately, the clearance that gave permission for them to be recruited and have their salaries paid to them expired in December 2024.
Are you referring to the 500 that didn't even have their IDs or the lump sum?
The 500 and then the 2,130 who had their staff IDs but could not get their salaries.
Oh, I see.
Yes. And so we inherited it and we came with the orientation that governance is continuum. So once you inherit anything, positive or negative, you accept it and work with it. So we accepted it. So the first step we took was that we as management wanted to understand why some were paid and others were not paid, why some of them have received their staff IDs and others have not received their staff IDs. So between March 7th to 14th, we conducted a validation exercise across the entire country just to understand the issues pertaining to the salary and the staff IDs. After the exercise, we realized that there were a couple of issues. So one of it is that, of course, there are genuine administrative delays and processes that caused the salaries of our dear teachers. So from the part of government, there were genuine delays that caused the salaries. Then again, we also realized that apart from the administrative delays, there were a couple of concerns with inconsistencies with SNIT numbers that some of the teachers provided. So, you know, when you are recruited, you are asked normally to provide your documents, your SNIT number, your Ghana card IDs, and some other documents. We realized that for some of the Senate numbers that were provided, there were inconsistencies with the numbers. So back and forth, go and correct it, go and put this number here and all that caused the delay. Then we also realized that for some of the teachers to issue with Ghana card ID, inputting the correct ID number and all that was also a challenge. We also found that for some of the teachers, they wanted reposting. So some of them they didn't like the district, the school, sometimes the region they were posted, and so some of them wanted reposting. So back and forth, go and change this place, go and change this document. By the time they realized, they were all lumped into the delay process. And we came to inherit all these issues. So with clear understanding of why some delays had happened and what must be done, we decided that, okay, once we have the understanding, now you, the aggrieved teachers, give us some of your people, call them leaders. And then management of GES would also bring our leaders so that the two parties will fashion how solution could be, or agreement could be reached.
That's the 5 members that you prescribed that would be part of the committee.
Yes, they were.
And they have given you the list.
Yes. This should be somewhere around April. So we are dealing with the processes leading up to this stage. And so the leadership, together with GES management, have been working hand in hand to address the issues. Beyond that, we also went a step further to quickly get in touch with the Ministry of Finance through the Ministry of Education. I mean, that's the sector ministry we work directly with. And so we got to the Ministry of Finance, and Dr. Atoforsen told us that he clearly understands the issues. He has a clear mind on what exactly is happening. So we are fortunate that he made provision for us in the budget, the 2025 budget.
So the money is on standby?
Yes. Now, so these are the processes we have taken so far. Now, what we are waiting for is the specific clearance that will give us the authorization to pay the salaries of our dear teachers. And for those who had challenges with their staff IDs, about 582 of them also help them to get their staff IDs. For them to, they have gone through almost all the necessary documentation processes, i.e. submitting their document to the district level submitting to regional level submitting. So they have also gone through the processes, and they are only waiting for their staff IDs to be generated for them. And these are the conversations we have had. Now, what seems to be a little challenge that we have observed as Ghana Education Services, that at almost every point in time, new groups of teachers, new faces, new leadership come up. And so it looks as though nothing has been done so far, because sometimes the leaders we dealt with in April, by the time you realize another set of leaders have also come up with their members, new faces, and then it looks as though we are going back and forth with the conversation. But our dear teachers should be rest assured that the processes are far advanced, and that their salaries will be
made available. I'm just looking at the statement you put out, and you say that you are far advanced in terms of your engagement and how you plan to ensure that you solve the issue with the expired financial clearance. Do you have a timeline to that? When exactly will this be sorted out?
All right. So, of course, what happens with the timeline is that there are about 4 parties involved in this whole conversation. The aggrieved teachers themselves, a very important party. The Ghana Education Service, another important party. The Ministry of Education, and then the Ministry of Finance. These are parties working together to bring some finality to the issues. And so it becomes difficult when only one party is pushed to give some strict timelines and deadlines to some of the activities we have taken. Of course, we need to have conversations and then continuous engagement with all these other important parties to be able to. However, what we can assure our teachers, and we have actually communicated this with them, that's why they have left the premises.
Okay.
Because they
are aware of these steps you are taking.
Yes. And so what we can assure them is that because budgetary allocation has already been made, at least it gives the impression that the money is
there. They just have to sort out these petty issues.
Yes, and so very, 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 very soon they should expect.
Very soon, you would agree with me, is not a timeline. 1 month, 2 weeks? Give me a timeline.
That's a conversation that should be had among all the the interest parties that are Ministry of Education, Ministry of Finance, the aggrieved teachers themselves, and the Ghana Education Service. So we can assure of very, very soon, yes.
Okay. Before I let you go, just 1 minute, I can see the last paragraph in your statement. You say that you're working to ensure that the promotion process for teachers who are long overdue for the rank of deputy director is underway. They've been on the backlog for more than 10 years.
Yes, in fact, not only 10 years. So there are some who go far above 10, others to not up to 10. But what we came to realize is that there are certain ranks in the Ghana Education Service. Once you get there, it's assumed that you are supposed to occupy an office. So if there is no fiscal office for you to occupy, then you are kept at your current rank till there is a fiscal space for you. The current government believes that that ideology should not work. If people have worked and deserve their promotions, give to them. Because after all, some people would love to be deputy directors, assistant directors, and still be in the classroom, not necessarily going to some office or some fiscal structure to work with. As typical of the university structure, you could go to a university and you find a professor who is a lecturer. No portfolio, no office, but is a lecturer and happily working. Why can't we replicate the structure with the Ghana Education Service? So we don't believe that people should be made to get stuck at one place just because we are waiting for a fiscal office for them. And so for those affected individuals, we are working strongly. You know, before you could go to your next promotion, we'd have to go through interview processes, I mean, as typical of every other sector, go through interviews and then all that. So we are processing all of them. We don't believe that they should be stuck. They should be promoted to their deserved ranks, and we are taking them through the necessary process to get their promotions.
I appreciate your time here on The Pulse. Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Education Service with me, Daniel Feain, just giving us updates on that. It's a good time for me to take you now to Parliament. The Speaker is on the floor. Let's listen in.
When did you conclude the hearings of the committee?
The vetting of the report or?
The public hearing?
Yes, Friday.
Friday?
Yes.
Friday, okay.
Mr. Speaker?
Yes.
That's okay. Mr. Speaker, by Wednesday, we had done 6 judges, and the report on the 6 judges were ready and distributed for our comment. So, Mr. Speaker will recall that whilst we are in your office, we started going through the reports. So, Mr. Speaker, on Friday, it was only 1 judge that was vetted owing to a petition that the committee has addressed. So, for me, what was left was the consideration of the report of the single judge vetted on Friday. And Mr. Speaker, when the report of the single judge was produced, copy was given to the minority leader, and in minority leader's own handwriting, he made comments that comment should be integrated. And Mr. Speaker, that comment was integrated.
Yes,
and because it was in his own handwriting.
First Deputy Speaker, yes, we heard you on that one. So let me listen to the Deputy Minority Leader. I think you are a member of the committee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would agree with both contributors that we had a discussion on the report. And at a point in time, we came up with suggestions as to the format in which the report was to be taken. After a series of questions from the Honorable Deputy Minority Leader, we all agree that, yes, what the Honorable Minority Leader is indicating must be incorporated in the report. But before dispersing from the meeting, there was a clear understanding that after inserting the preliminary comments and the suggestion that was written,
Honorable members,
Yes.
Yes, honorable members, we all heard her. Please.
Honorable.
Yes, please continue.
The minority leader pleaded, and it was accepted, that after the incorporation of the suggestions in the report should be reverted back to him, and then he will have a last look at it, and then be ascertained that it is the full capture of what he indicated before it is signed and accepted by all of us. I'm here to learn that even though the minority leader, whatever he wrote was incorporated, it was never sent back to him. It was sent back to him. He made an input. He made an input correcting a statement that was not right. So once he has made that input, I believe that we all agree that it is only when all these things are corrected before it can be signed and presented for laying. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to beg of you. I think we are all trying to build consensus in everything that we do. Dialogue is the most important thing. We have dialogue with the chair, and if he's not going to agree to what we are suggesting, it is not a right position of the minority. And therefore, it is very important that what we want to express out there must be clearly stated. So I would like to plead with you, Mr. Speaker, that give us a little more chance to go through the report again, and then by the agreement of the committee members, then we will represent on the floor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, I don't think we have to continue this exchanges. It's not a debate, but we are governed by rules. And Order 215 gives us an indication of how reports of committees should be not only adopted by the committee, but also presented to the House. And 215 says that the deliberations and recommendations of a committee shall be presented to the House in the form of a committee, of a report. Honorable Dr. 2152 says, the committee shall consider and adopt the report prior to the presentation of the report to the House. And the report shall be signed by the chairperson and the clerk to the committee. With specific reference to the Appointments Committee, 21711 says the committee shall report to Parliament within 3 days after the conclusion of proceedings of the committee when Parliament is sitting. Honorable members, please, when you are dealing with serious matters of this nature, you don't keep on conversing as if you are in the market square. Please. After listening to the information from the members of the committee, the chair, the ranking, and a senior member, the deputy minority leader, I think some of what you refer to, I'm aware of. Because you even sought my assistance in some of these matters in my conference room and went through them together. We thought we had settled them. Now they are being rehashed. I don't think that is proper. When we are talking about a report of a committee, we are talking about the whole committee. We're not talking about individuals inserting things to suit their understanding of a report of the committee. Whatever you have to say, you can say it here on the floor as part of your contributions to the deliberations of the House. I will give you enough time to say it. We cannot expect the report to capture everything. Please, you will not be prevented from saying what you want to say. But when we talk about the report, we are talking about the report capturing the decision of the whole committee. That is what we are looking at. So please, I think the report is properly before the House, and it will be presented, and it will be taken by this House today. So please, Chairman of the committee, you may proceed to do so now.
Report of the Appointments Committee on His Excellency the President's nominations for appointments as Justices of the Supreme Court of Ghana.
Honorable members, the report of the Appointments Committee has been presented to the House. It's now for distribution to all members of Parliament. Yes, any other business?
Mr. Speaker, we will take motion number 11, which is, it's not a motion, Mr. Speaker. Item 11, which is presentation and first reading of bills and some communication from the Minister for the Interior. Item 11, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, item 11, presentation and first reading of bills, public holidays and commemorative days amendment bill 2025. Minister for Interior.
An act to amend the Public Holidays and Commemorative Days Act 2001, Act 601, to provide for Shark Day and the first day of July as statutory public holidays and for related matters.
Honorable members, the Public Holidays and Commemorative Days Amendment Bill 2025 has been presented to the House and referred to the Committee on Interior, and I will add Defense and the leadership of the Committee on Constitutional and Legal Affairs. They are already part of it. Yes, Committee on Defense and Interior with leadership of the Committee on Constitutional and Legal Affairs. Yes, I can see the minister on his feet. Majority Leader, let me listen to the minister first.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I had indicated to your good servant, the leadership, that this was to be taken under certificate of urgency. And I thought that when the leader was sorting the permission for me to lay, he would have indicated or given me the opportunity to do so. So I wanted to draw your attention that this was an urgent bill that needed to go to certificate of urgency through all the stages today. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
You may need to convince us why it's an urgent bill.
Mr. Speaker, yes. Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Minority Leader, what is it on? Just a minute, just a minute. Yes, let me listen to him, whatever it is. Let's listen. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, with respect, the application was made and the paper was duly laid. The referral was made to a committee that brought a closure to that application. Mr. Speaker, the minister now gets to his feet to direct government business and to make a suggestion that the leader of government business should have proceeded in a certain manner. He is one person who has been talking about rules, that we should be guided by our rules. Mr. Speaker, he got up to now attempt to direct affairs without reference to any rules. Mr. Speaker, they are against certain precedents being set. If there's a new precedent that after a paper has been laid, the minister can now come through back door to make an application that the leader of government business should have incorporated certain things in his application, and that was not done. So he is now moving it. Mr. Speaker, let that precedent become part of this house. Because, Mr. Speaker, this is a minister who is on record to have insisted on the rules. Mr. Speaker, he must comply with the very rules that he insists must be complied with.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the rules are very clear that bills presented to this House must be gazetted. When the bill is not gazetted and it is presented to this House, it is clear indication that it is coming as an urgent bill. It is. The rules are clear. The rules are clear. Mr. Speaker, let me read the standing orders. Let me read the standing orders. Let me read the standing orders. Let me read the standing orders, Mr. Speaker. Let me read the standing orders. Order 159, presentation of bills and gazette notification, subject to the Constitution and except as provided for in Order 160 and 162, a bill shall not be introduced in the House unless the bill has been published in the Gazette at least 14 days before the date of the introduction of the bill. Then 160 says that the sponsor may submit a bill to Parliament without publication in the Gazette where the sponsor of the bill considers the bill to be of an urgent nature. To the extent that he has not published it in the Gazette, he intends that it comes as a bill which is of an urgent nature. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, our rules provide for any person laying a paper after the paper has been laid to then make a statement explaining. And that was what I was expecting, that after he had laid the bill, then he will now mention that it is of an urgent nature because it has not been gazetted. Then we will now refer it to the committee. Mr. Speaker, the reason why, the fact that it has been referred to a committee doesn't mean that the committee is not supposed to exercise its responsibilities under Order 160. the committee, in considering it, will also have to come provide an explanation why it is urgent. But Mr. Speaker asks a question. Why is it urgent? It is urgent because it is meant to regulate public holidays. And we have a public holiday coming in a few days' time, Mr. Speaker. In a few days' time. In a few days' time, Mr. Speaker, and that is why we need to have this bill taken under a certificate of urgency so that the law can be in place for us to be able to enforce the public holiday which is coming in a few days' time, Mr. Speaker. So I urge you, Mr. Speaker.
Live interaction there from Parliament, where the majority is pushing for the public holidays bill to be amended under the certificate of emergency. They want to make key changes when it comes to the upcoming holiday, which is 1st of July. We'll take you live to Parliament now. My colleague James Aveji is on standby. But just before this happened, the Speaker adopted that report by the Appointments Committee that has been vetting the 7 Supreme Court judges nominee. But before that happened, there were a lot of back and forth on the floor. Walk us through it.
So, Fosti, that is, if you look at the other paper of Parliament for the proceedings today, top on the agenda has been the presentation and adoption of the report of the Vetting Committee of Parliament on the 7 judges who have been vetted in the last week, from Monday to Wednesday and then on Friday. The minority leader, after the Speaker indicated that the report should be presented, rose to his feet, Alexander Penyomakin, objecting to the laying of the report. His position has been that they, the minority, haven't had their input into the report, and so the House shouldn't adopt the report. It is one-sided. The minority hasn't signed it, and so the Speaker should reject the laying, pleading on him to allow the chairman of the committee, Bernard Ahiafo, to go back and seek the views of the minority, inculcate that or include that into the final report before it is put before the House. Then the minority, the chairman of the committee, Bernard Ahiafo, in response to his position or objection, indicated that the position of the minority leader, Alexander Penyomakin, who is also the ranking member on the committee, is not true, and that the committee had taken a decision on the first 6 nominees who they have vetted from Monday to Wednesday. You remember they did 3 of the nominees on Monday, 2 on Tuesday, and then 1 on Wednesday, where we had the indefinite suspension of the vetting of the 7th nominee, which upon a petition which was cleared and vetted on Friday. And so he indicated that as far as the first 6 nominees are concerned, the committee had taken a decision on them as at Wednesday at the end of the vetting process. And so the only one left was the Friday vetting, which was carried out. And so even as at that, when the final report of the committee was prepared, the minority leader then sent him an official note which he terms as his preliminary comment on the vetting process, which the minority leader Alexander Penyomakin insisted should be included in the report. That the chairman Bernard Ahiafo indicated that he accepted and included in the report, only for them to come for another meeting this morning on the final outcome of the report, for the minority leader to insist that he's got an update of that preliminary comment, insisting that they should include that again in the report. That is where the chairman, Bernard Ahiafo, indicated that he objected to it. In fact, it has not been the precedent that members of the committee, either in the leadership, will present a preliminary comment on a report before it is put out there. And so he has been benevolent to include the first preliminary comment and that he would not accept the second one. So that was the clarification he gave. Then the the deputy minority leader, who is also the deputy ranking on the committee, Madam Patricia P.J., also rose to her feet to bring to the attention of the speaker that, in fact, the second comment, which was sent to the chairman by Agyemang, has been a correction of some comments and views he made in the first preliminary comment, which he believes have not been captured well, which he has corrected, and he was insisting that the correction been effected in the final report. And so it is not anything new he was introducing into the report, and so was asking the speaker to give them some more time to go and work on that and come back. But the speaker finally ruled that as far as he's concerned and the orders of the House are concerned, the reports are supposed to be prepared and signed by the chairman of the committee and the clerk to the committee. And so if those two people have their signatures on the report, there is nothing wrong with it, and so allow that the report should be laid. And so it has been laid. The indication we are getting is that it may be treated today, and possibly the final report will be passed, which would mean that the House may approve the 7 nominees by close of day today. And this discussion that is ongoing about the public holidays may also go through today. And so we're looking forward to how all of those pan out in the course of the proceedings. Faustina.
Just before I let you go, James, within a minute, just tell me what has been discussed on the floor and why the majority is pushing for the bill to be laid before the House under certificate of emergency, that amendments they are proposing to a public holidays bill.
The minority said they have made some observations about that particular bill, and that they feel that it is not a bill that should be taken under a certificate of urgency, which would mean that if the speaker admits that it should go under certificate of urgency, the public holidays amendment bill will be passed today. That is what the minority is objecting to. They feel that it should go back to the committees to run through and make the necessary corrections. And so we're looking forward to what the speaker's ruling will be on that. And then we'll see whether they will accept it and treat it in the course of today, or it will go back to the committee for some corrections as well.
Coming all the way from Parliament Live. Well, you're still watching The Pulse. When we come back, we'll give you the conversation with the National Identification Authority. As you may be aware, they have gone on an indefinite strike, which is the Public Sector Workers Union of NIA. And we'll be discussing what exactly this means for the operations after this week 10. Thank you for staying with us here on The Pulse. So other stories now. A labor consultant has described an industrial action by the National Identification Authority Division of the Public Sector Workers Union as legal. The group is protesting a delay by the Finance Ministry to provide, quote, definite commitment or timelines regarding payment of operational support allowance. End of quote. But he terms it as illegal, by the way. Now, speaking to Joy News on News Text, Ofosu Asamoah asked the group to dialogue with government to resolve the matter.
Yes. Right. It is captured in the supplement budget, just about they have decided. You see, so that is why that you have a government being they are not service. They just one of the and it has explained that the failure died in the earlier budget. But you press for it, that the supplementary budget, and this is not done by declaring strike. It is done by negotiation. And there is negotiation as well between the two parties. You call in a third party. In this case, the National Labour Commission. Yeah, it's a lawful institution to mediate or to get into it and help resolve the problem. But you are failed to bring in the National Labour Commission, by giving a requisite notice and just declaring a strike. You see, it has become one too many that people don't want to negotiate. People don't want to take the route.
Why do you think that is? Don't you also think that maybe this union, supposedly to be the referee, is not also helping, which is why they don't trust the commission to go to the commission with their concerns?
They have not said they don't trust the commission. They have only failed to seek the assistance of the commission.
Okay.
Not because they don't trust the commission. Because the law says, even if you don't trust the commission to resolve it, the law mandates to notify them if you want to go on strike. So notify them. If you are not calling for their intervention, they could have written for the commission to intervene, but they are not written. So you want to declare strike. Now the law says if you want to declare strike, notify the commission. If you want to declare strike, it must be by the national and not the.
The group, however, insists their action is justifiable and they hope that that will help get their issues addressed. Let's listen to John Sampa, his Deputy General Secretary of the Public Sector Workers Union. He also spoke on Newstex.
Given notice about 1 month ago, even the National Labour Commission wrote to management to address our concerns and to also ask us to exercise restraint. We called up that strike action. We wrote another notice and said that we will start our strike action. That is yesterday, Monday, but the minister intervened. The letter that you are reading is because we suspended the notice we have given already. It's a letter to our members to say that today the strike is beginning. So it is not that the employer is not aware of what we want to do. Even national security operatives have called some of us and have actually have some engagement, and the management also saying that the matter will be resolved. In fact, last week, management organized a small, they issued a press release also to say that the money will be paid very, very soon, giving everybody assurance that perhaps this month we will even receive the money. So it is not like we just wake up and then we say we are going on strike. We have given adequate notice, and this one was just a confirmation that while we should have started the strike yesterday, we have resumed it because the negotiation didn't go well. Secondly, the National Union have not said that they don't actually sanction. It is our style. But the point is that the National Union 100% sanction and use our agent as a divisional union to actually issue this notice. Though this notice is issued for and on behalf of the Public Service Workers Union, and we fully accept that. So you can also say that we cannot declare a strike in that manner. You also agree that if they said it has not been budgeted, there is a mid-year budget review which will happen in July. What prevents the minister to give us a firm assurance that in the mid-year review, we will put it in it and that you will get your money maybe in August?
Well, how is this impacting operations of the NIA? Join me now on Zoom is Head of Corporate Affairs at the NIA, Williams Ampomat Dallas. We appreciate your time. We'll start with the immediate impact and then delve into the key issues. Can you hear me, Mr. Dallas? Okay, just as we're getting his thoughts on this, we know that the NIA, they have raised key concerns about this. They say that the Finance Ministry, quote, failed to show definite commitment to timelines regarding payment of operational support allowances. I have his attention now. Let me just bring in the Head of Corporate Affairs at the NIA, William Ampomat Dallas. We appreciate your time here on the pulse. I just wanted to get your thoughts on the immediate impact since the workers have withdrawn their services.
So, good evening. I believe you can hear me now.
Loud and clear now.
Very well. Right. So let me start off by saying we stand with the union and we appreciate the concerns they've put across. They are very much aware that they've not been alone in this journey. Management has been with them throughout the processes. So even yesterday, what actually happened yesterday was a meeting that management orchestrated so that the union will be a part of the meeting and listen to the ministry at first hand, so that it doesn't look like we go and we come to distort the information. There was a negotiated agreement between the National Identification Authority, the Union, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, and the Finance Ministry sometime last year. Now, in the agreement, two things were stated. The allowances that are due for payment, the ministry, together with Controller and Accountant General, asked the National Identification Authority to pay those allowances with our IGF between 1st of August to 31st December 2024. The authority did that. The second leg of the agreement was for the authority to incorporate that allowance into our 2025 budgets. And I can confirm to you the authority listed that as part of our 2025 budget. And you know, the budgeting procedure is such that when the institutions are done with their budgets, there's a system you put your budget in, which is the Hyperion. Once it is put in, staff at the Ministry of Finance will then pull them out and give it to the Minister for Appropriation. We have done all that. As latest as last week, 18th of June, in our maiden press briefing, we referred to a document from the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to the Finance Ministry, asking them to facilitate the payment of the allowance to our staff. And that letter was signed by Dr. Graham. So yesterday's meeting was to just put an ice on the icing on the cake. And unfortunately, a comment from the Deputy Minister of Finance didn't sit well with the union.
What comment was that?
The comment was in relation to the payment of the allowance dossier.
Okay.
And the minister was of the view it would be impossible to make provisions for that dossier. And management of the National Identification Authority is of the view the minister was not privy to the meetings that has happened before yesterday's. And so we pardon the minister for that. It was an error, and he acknowledged that it was an error. We've shown him all the communications that has ensued between the authority, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, to the Finance Ministry. And so we have evidence to show that the allowances were budgeted for in our 2025 budget.
Okay.
Now, the ministry tells us, initially we were with Office of Government Machinery. We were on their budgets. Now they've moved the authority to the Ministry of the Interior. And so they tell us when they were moving our budget to the Ministry of Interior, they forgot to move the 16 million as compensation to our staff from OGM to the Ministry of Interior. And so they can only do that in mid-year when they are doing the mid-year budget review, so that they move the money to the Ministry of Interior, and then they can ask Controller and Accountant General to make the payment. But now our staff are on strike. And so we feel something concrete must be done to get their buy-in before they resign their decision. And so this morning, we had a meeting with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, the CEO and his team, at the headquarters of the NIA. And we agreed on a certain roadmap. So the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission will engage the finance minister, the ministry, and then get their commitment, because the union has indicated to us that once there are timelines for the payment of the allowances, they can talk to their members and then resign their decision. So we want the ministry to commit to certain timelines as to when they are going to effect the payment of the allowances to our staff. And once that letter is received from the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, we can go ahead, meet our union leaders, and then get them back to their various offices.
But how long is this process supposed to take?
In fact, we spent the whole of today engaging stakeholders and all that. And so we are very hopeful that by tomorrow, we should be able to land on something that can help us reach an amicable solution with the union. And let me hasten to add that it is even in the interest of us and the finance ministry to ensure we get money to pay them. Because as they've striked today, government is losing revenue. If you go to the ports, you will need the services of the National Identification Authority to execute whatever business that sends you there. If you go to DVLE, the same thing. In fact, almost every service you may want to procure today in Ghana, you will need the services of the National Identification Authority, it being verification or getting the physical Ghana card. And so it is never in our interest that those who are doing the heavy liftings in the various districts get agreed and put down their machines that they are not going to serve the good people of Ghana. As we speak, we have an agreement with our technical partners, and there's a GSA agreement. All the works they are doing in the various district offices and the regional offices goes into an escrow account to pay off our debt. And so as they are not working and we are not getting the revenue per the agreement, if we don't get, government will have to find money to pay for the GSA. And so it is in our interest, as a matter of urgency, ensure that the ministry commits to certain timelines so that it gives the union some hope that, yes, now we have the hope, we have timelines that maybe by August, they will start paying or in bits, so that they will have the full assurance to communicate same to their members. And my sister, as I mentioned earlier, we are looking at about 1.4 million every month, which is far lesser than how much we will lose if the strike continues.
How much is each staff entitled to with the payment of the operational support allowance?
So their salaries differ.
Okay.
And so it is 20% of their basic salaries.
Okay.
So if you are taking, say, 1,000 Ghana cedis, it's 20%. It is around 200 cedis. And so it depends on how much you are taking. And it will be 20% of that amount. So as I said, in total, it's about 1.4 million monthly. And it's a paltry sum compared to what we will lose if the strike continues.
And what measures are you putting in place in the interim to mitigate the impact whilst we wait for that timeline, definite timeline given by the finance ministry?
Right, so we've contacted the union. I indicated earlier that today is been meeting upon meetings to ensure we get an amicable solution. We've also engaged the union chairman And the indication we're getting from them is that all they need is a committed timelines as to when the monies will be paid, and they will be good to return to their various offices. So that's what we are working towards, and we are hopeful that by close of tomorrow, this will be over.
We appreciate your time here on the Pulse. I've been engaging Williams Ampoma Dallas. He is the head of corporate affairs at the NIA. We appreciate your time here on the Pulse. You're still watching the Pulse. We'll be back with more. Please stay tuned in. Well, that's how we wrap up the bulletin here on the Pulse. For more news, please log on to myjournline.com. My name is Faustina Safo, but I'm not leaving you alone. I'm taking you to Parliament just to monitor key happenings on the floor.
Securing their future and existence were not going to be paid for some time. And even if it was going to be paid, it was going to be paid at a rate much lower than what they agreed when they were buying the bonds. And that the tenor that they were given was going to be extended by significant years. Mr. Speaker, many of those who were affected this way were in the Ghanaian middle class. Overnight, they slammed into penury and they were gnashing their teeth. Mr. Speaker, the most important point, however, is that this was self-inflicted. The mismanagement of the Ghanaian economy began no sooner than when the MPP took over power in 2017. Mr. Speaker, by 2019, or if like 2018, it had become apparent that they were mismanaging the economy. And you could tell so from the budget deficit, which gives an indication of whether there is prudence or there is mismanagement. By 2018, the budget deficits that they inherited has started going up. For 3 consecutive years, between 2018 and 2020, their budget deficit was higher than what they inherited. Mr. Speaker, by 2020, they thought that it was more prudent to borrow and spend money that we didn't have in order to win elections. By 2021, their sins had caught up with them, and we were heading for a crash. By the time they adopted the DDEP, Mr. Speaker, they had absolutely no option, because that was the only way that the IMF would touch us with a long pole. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, and finally, before I sit, Mr. Speaker, it is Dr Mahmud Balmia, who they touted as the best economist this side of the Sahara, who told us that the exchange rate is the biggest indicator of economic prudence. This was in the same lecture where he said the exchange rate will expose you if the fundamentals are weak. It is the duty of government to manage the exchange rate. So if you mismanage it and your currency crashes, and by that reason your debt balloons, it is your responsibility. You have incurred debt. The reverse has happened. We have managed the exchange rate well. So because of that, we have saved 150 billion Ghana cedis of our debt through enhanced foreign exchange liquidity. Mr. Speaker, between January and this month, close to $4 billion has accrued to this economy through gold exports. That is because now 80% of all small-scale gold that is mined in Ghana must be ceded to a government agency called the Gold Board, previously called the PMMC. That is what has enhanced forex liquidity on the market, because our exchange rate regime is defined by the same principles that we know to be demand and supply. There is adequate foreign exchange on the market. That is why the cedi is strong. So it was their fault that they incurred the debts, and we have done good by reducing the debt through prudent foreign exchange management. So, Mr. Speaker, we have not approbated, we have not reprobated. We have simply stated the facts when we say that the DDEP was their own doing. Nobody put a gun to their head to mismanage the Ghanaian economy. But what we can assure everybody in Ghana is that we will not tread the same paths that they worked on. We will learn lessons from what they have done, and we will manage this economy such that the gains that have been made will be sustained over the medium to long term. And finally, Mr. Speaker, nobody has said that global factors don't have an effect on an economy. They do. Since time immemorial, we all know that crude oil price increase on the world market affects the price at the pump. But it was not crude oil prices that resulted in the depreciation of the cedi. It was not crude oil prices that resulted in the DDEP. It was not crude oil prices that resulted in the humongous debts that led to the DDEP. Even as there is global crisis now, fuel price at the pump has reduced 8 times since the beginning of this year under this government. These are facts. So, Mr. Speaker, our friends on the other side should be mandate. Let them take responsibility for their mismanagement. I thank you very much.
Yes, honorable members, I put the question. Honorable members, those in favor of the motion, say aye. Those against, say no. Honorable members, the ayes have it. The motion is carried. We will now move to the resolution. Or Majority Leader, you want us to consider something else?
No, Mr. Speaker, the Minister is not here, so we want to crave your indulgence for the Minister for Interior to take item 18, the resolution.
Yes, please.
Mr. Speaker, the Majority Leader always boasts that he has his ministers. Where is the Finance Minister? And where is the Deputy Finance Minister? This resolution is very important. And Mr. Speaker, we need the Finance Minister or the Deputy Minister responsible for finance. None of them are in the chamber, and they are both members of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, I don't think we should allow the Minister responsible for Interior to take this resolution. If it is as important as it is, then we should be able to get the Minister responsible for Finance or his deputy to take the resolution in question. So, Mr. Speaker, decline his application to allow the Minister responsible for Interior to do that. He did not even consult anybody. But, Mr. Speaker, I just think that you shouldn't grant his request. Mr. Speaker, the ministers are in the chamber today. Just like the minister in charge of government communication. They are here to vote on the judges. That's the reason why they are here. There's no releasing, nothing. That is why they are in the chamber today, to vote for the judges. So, Mr. Speaker, the finance minister is not here, his deputy is not here, and for that matter, we should not take that resolution. The resolution cannot be... Mr. Speaker, if monies are not released to ministers to pay contractors, how can that amount to good prudent management of the economy? How can an official rate of dollar to the cedi be Mr. Speaker, 6 months? In 2017, they have forgotten about the fact that in 2017, when we took over, we had announced that we had arrested the dollar. We had announced 6 months, exactly that time, we had announced it. But now, even 24-hour economy, there is zero, nothing. 24-hour economy, where is your finance minister? Where is your deputy finance minister? Mr. Speaker, rule him out. Don't let the minister take the resolution.
Yes, Honorable Deputy Minority Whip, you are now combining your debate on the motion with your objection to the minister taking the resolution. I think he just wanted a bite, and he's got it. Yes, so Minister for Communication.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, you know we are all your sons, but like every father, there are sons that disappoint you. And listening to the Deputy Minority Leader, Mr. Speaker, Chief Whip, Mr. Speaker, he was asking the whereabouts of the finance minister and his deputy. Mr. Speaker, those are two of your most prestigious sons who are cleaning the mess that was created, the financial mess that was created by their side. So, Mr. Speaker, you know, it is important that they know that some of your sons are making you proud, while some of your sons, when they speak, Mr. Speaker, you shake your head in disdain. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, may we move to item 18 on the order paper. I grant the leave for the Minister for Interior to take that item, resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move resolution item number 18 on pages 7 and 8 be moved today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I so move.
Yes. Honourable members.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Motion for us to adopt resolution number 18 on the order paper, moved and seconded, is for the consideration of the House. It being just a resolution, I'll put the question. Those in favor of the resolution say aye. Aye. Those against the resolution say no. Honourable members, the ayes have it. The resolution is accordingly adopted. Yes.
Right, Honourable Speaker, the report of the Appointments Committee, the 15th report, has been electronically distributed to all members. So I crave your indulgence if we can take item number 12.
I didn't complete my statement when you stood up, so I thought you were going to say something on that. Let me now say that by the adoption of the resolution, this House has approved the indicative debt restructuring terms between the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Minister of Finance, and the participating creditor countries of the Official Creditor Committee, Austria, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, China, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, India, Israel, Italy, Japan, the Netherlands, Norway, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, South Korea, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America. Yes. I will now refer to the submission of the Majority Leader that the report has been electronically transmitted to all members, and his request is for us to take it now. Yes, Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Majority Leader made an application for leave to enable this House proceed with motion number 12. Mr. Speaker, per the rules of this House, this procedural motion can be moved to address an urgent matter that requires our decision. That is why, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the text of the motion, it says, notwithstanding Order 1041, which requires that motion should not be debated
until at least 2 sitting days have elapsed after the notice to move the motion is given. Mr. Speaker, you asked some questions. When did the appointment committee finish its work? We finished our work Friday afternoon. This morning, around 11:30, the chair of the committee called members into a meeting at his conference room for us to deliberate. Mr. Speaker, we concluded on the report, and although this side of the House is dissatisfied with your earlier ruling, we have yielded, which ruling has made the report, has made it possible for him to lay the report, and same has been laid. Mr. Speaker, what is the urgency requiring this procedural motion to be moved? At the hearing, the nominees indicated that the current bench is made up of 13. If you even take the Chief Justice who has been suspended out, we have 12. Mr. Speaker, what matter has suddenly arisen, thereby giving rise for the majority leader to push that the report that has just been laid, instead of it going through the normal requirement of 2 sitting days, we should move it today? Is it the case that we do not have sufficient number at the Supreme Court to be empaneled to determine any constitutional issue? Mr. Speaker, this House must be careful in certain precedents it may be setting. We believe that this application is being made in bad faith. There is no such urgent need for us to suspend our rules to allow for the moving of this motion for the adoption of the report. Mr. Speaker, I do not want to believe that there may be something that I don't know. Mr. Speaker, only yesterday, our friends argued that there was no need to rush. Mr. Speaker, in fact, the majority leader is on record to have said that even the nomination of 2 justices to the Supreme Court at the time when some were being expected to retire was too early in the day because the people have not retired. So why was Akufo-Addo's government in a rush? Mr. Speaker, today we are in June. The bench is about going on legal vacation. We know that there is sufficient number of judges at the Supreme Court now to make determinations. Mr. Speaker, the majority is pushing its luck rather too far. Mr. Speaker, it is the interest of democracy to allow this motion to go through the normal process. Mr. Speaker, we have 137-page report. Mr. Speaker, it is just being distributed. I do not think that even on the majority side, all of them have received copies. Mr. Speaker, and even if they have received, I'm not sure all of them have read it. Mr. Speaker, you have been part of this House since 1993. This is a dangerous precedent. This is a dangerous precedent, and it is a reason why they are whipping their ministers to come into the chamber when they are supposed to discharge their ministerial functions.
is in a hurry to pass the courts. Mr. Speaker, a moment ago, we were looking for the finance minister and his deputy. We couldn't find them. Another minister had to move a motion in their stead. Can any government minister tell me now that since we approved the 2025 budget, the releases have been made to their ministry? Can any of them say on record, you have become redundant in your ministries? These matters you are not treating urgent, and then judges, just instead of we allowing the report to be read, 2 days, today is Tuesday, you have today, you have tomorrow, then you can move it on Thursday. That is within the rules. Why are you in a rush? Why are you in a rush? Mr. Speaker, I would pray you that don't be inclined into granting this request by the majority leader. Mr. Speaker, direct the majority leader to the rules so that we thoroughly read the reports before considering saying, Mr. Speaker, I rest my case.
Honorable members, the submission of the minority leader has followed precedent, and this precedent was established in the national interest, so he has just followed that precedent. The motion that is being sought to move is also to follow precedent, which was established in the first parliament, followed in the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and we are now in the ninth parliament. And it has all been done in the national interest. So our for presidents in the national interest, we will continue to follow them. That is the ruling I'm giving in this matter. And Order 217, particularly Sub-Rule 11, is very clear. It says the committee shall report to Parliament within 3 days. Within 3 days. After the conclusion of proceedings of the committee when Parliament is sitting. And so the report has been presented to the House within 3 days. That is what our rules say. And I believe that it's proper for us to take it. And so I will grant the permission for the motion to be moved, and then we can move on to the substantive matter. So please, Chair, you may move the motion.
Right, Honorable Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to move the motion numbered 12 at page 6 of today's order paper, that notwithstanding the provisions of Order 1041 of the Standing Orders, which requires that a motion shall not be debated until at least 2 sitting days have elapsed after the notice to move the motion is given, the motion for the adoption of the 15th report of the Appointment Committee on His Excellency the President's nomination for appointment as Justices of the Supreme Court of Ghana may be moved today. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Any seconder? Yes, please.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Thank you. Honorable members, motion moved and seconded is a procedural motion, so I put the question. Those in favor of the adoption of the motion say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. We now move to the substantive motion, item 1.3 on the order paper. Chairman of the committee.
Right, Honorable Speaker. I rise to move the motion numbered 13 at page 6 of today's order paper, that this Honorable House adopt the 15th reports of the Appointment Committee on His Excellency the President's nomination for appointment as Justices of the Supreme Court of Ghana. Right Honorable Speaker, in doing so, I present the Appointment Committee's report. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee following your referral on 20th day of May 2025, and after following and complying with the requirement of the law, vetted the law, particularly Standing Order 217 and Article 144, proceeded to vet all the 7 judges. And it is after vetting that the committee's report is being presented for adoption by the House. I first of all urge the entire House to unanimously adopt the committee's report. Mr. Speaker, I also urge on the Hazard Department to capture the entire report as having been read, as I touch on some salient questions that the judges responded to, and then read the conclusion of the report. The Speaker, starting from questions posed to Justice Senyo Jamapwe, he was asked his view on the doctrine of separation of powers, which he answered eloquently. He was also asked the innovations that would improve on justice delivery in Ghana. Another question is about the independence of the judiciary and suppressing of investigative journalism to protect the dignity of the judiciary. The image of the judiciary was also asked on the rule of constitutional interpretation applied by the nominee. Was also asked the importance of cyber security in Ghana's legal education. Another question was reintroduction of the public tribunal system. There was also a question on assets declaration by the judges, deportation of foreign illegal minors, gender parity in the judiciary, extension of retirement age of Supreme Court judges, maintaining judicial ethics, view on spousal property, conflict between foreign and domestic investment laws, modernization of legal education, establishment of Northern Bench, the nexus between the rule of law and economic development, views on justice delay is justice denied, significant judgment of the nominee, reform in legal education, and then the 2015 World Cup, among others, judicial transparency, ECOWAS court issues, issues of democratic theory and constitutional purposes, building trust in the judicial system, judicial ethics, the agency of accountability, among others, were asked. The Speaker, at the end of the day, the recommendation of the committee on him was by a majority decision. As our friends from the minority have voted, all voted against the nominee. The Speaker, the next nominee is Justice Dennis. The Speaker, I must commend him about the scholarly manner in which he lectured the committee. Questions were posed to him about the limited access to legal education in Ghana, diminishing trust in the judiciary, abolition of the death sentence, establishment of separate constitutional courts, human dignity and criminal justice, challenging parliamentary decisions in courts, contribution to children's rights and gender equality, criminalizing child marriage and witchcraft accusations, ensuring gender parity in the judiciary, environmental protection, constitutional amendments, automation of courts, judicial dress code in Ghana's courts, tax obligations, nominees' honorary positions, nominees' legal education and qualifications, retirement age for Supreme Court judges, the nominees' view on judicial precedent and legal interpretation, functions of the Judicial Council in appointment of Supreme Court justices under Article 1442. Mr. Speaker, several questions were posed to him, and eloquently he provided the answer. Right Honorable Speaker, third in line is Justice Simon Turibari. Questions were also posed to him on the bribery and corruption in the judiciary, investigative journalism in exposing corruption, proposal for consideration by the Constitutional Review Commission, extension of the retirement age of the Supreme Court judges, partisanship of the composition of the Supreme Court, public disclosure of assets by judges, balancing cultural norms with international regulations, particularly LGBTQ+, achieving gender equity in the judiciary, efforts to empower the youth to pursue legal education, key principles on compensation of victims, establishment of an independent judicial commission, inadequate number of judges in the northern part of Ghana, the reintroduction of the public tribunal system, capping of the number of justices of the Supreme Court, tagging of the judiciary. The Speaker, among others, were posed to the judge nominee. He has also delivered very eloquently. The Speaker, once the Hansard Department will capture the entire report, let me stop by stating the questions posed to Brian Philip. Let me conclude by mentioning the questions posed to Justice Philip Bright Mensah. The first question posed to him was judicial threat, sufficient power in protecting judicial independence, optimum number of the Supreme Court judges, premium placed on judicial service, gun ownership in Ghana, doctrine of separation of powers, recommending judicial reforms, curbing the menace of galamsey, professional obstacles as a judge, among others. Mr. Speaker, the Hansard Department will capture the rest, and I will proceed to read the recommendations and the conclusion of the House. The committee recommends to the House by majority decision Mr. Speaker, let me just go straight to the conclusion. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, the committee, acting in accordance with the provisions of Article 1442 of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana and Standing Order 217 of the House, duly examined the 7 nominees submitted by His Excellency the President for appointment to the Supreme Court of Ghana. Upon careful deliberations, the committee notes that all the nominees demonstrated outstanding competence, deep knowledge of the law, and a firm grasp of the judicial ethics. They addressed questions posed by the committee with professionalism, clarity, and intellectual rigor. reflecting their capacity to uphold the independence, integrity, and dignity of the highest court of the land, the Supreme Court for that matter. The committee is satisfied that the nominees possesses the requisite qualifications, judicial temperament, and commitment to constitutional values expected of justices of the Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, all members of the New Patriotic Party minority were opposed to and voted against all the 7 nominees, the justices of the Supreme Court, on the grounds that, 1, the appointment of 7 new justices was inconsistent with the suspension of the Chief Justice, stating that it was not about filling vacancies but reshaping the constitutional order. As to how this has got to do with the vetting, your guess is as good as mine. Right, Honorable Speaker, the second reason was that the Supreme Court abdicated its constitutional duty and remained silent when fundamental principles of natural justice were being violated. Mr. Speaker, the third is that the NDC had previously proposed the nomination of the 2 justices, citing judicial bloat. And, Mr. Speaker, the minority decision in opposing and voting against all the 7 nominees, the members of the National Democratic Congress majority, however, voted in favor of all the nominees. The committee therefore recommends to the House by majority decision the adoption of this report and the approval of Justice Senyo Jamope, Justice Sir Dennis Dominic Adje, Justice B.L. Simon Tulibari, Justice Philip Wright Mensah, Justice Gina Pare Ejua Batescujo, Justice Hafizata Amaliboba, Justice Kweku Tevia Akabofu. The committee respectfully submits this report for the consideration and approval of the House. Right, Honorable Speaker, I so submit.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to reluctantly support the motion. Mr. Speaker, and I would want to second the motion and speak on the points that the minority would want to put across. Mr. Speaker, in seconding the motion, I wouldn't want to go far, but to go to the conclusion of the report. And Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I would want to read the last but one page. The committee, acting in accordance with the provisions of Article 1442 of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana and Order 217 of the Standing Orders of Parliament, duly examined the 7 nominees submitted by His Excellency the President for appointment to the Supreme Court of Ghana. Upon careful deliberation, the committee notes that all the nominees demonstrated outstanding competence, deep knowledge of the law, and a firm grasp of judicial ethics. They addressed questions posed by the committee with professionalism, clarity, and intellectual rigor, reflecting their capacity to uphold the independence, integrity, and dignity of the highest court of the order. The committee is satisfied that the nominees possess the requisite qualifications, judicial temperament, and commitment to constitutional values expected of justices of the Supreme Court. In conclusion, all members of the New Patriotic Party minority were opposed to and voted against the nomination of the justices on the following grounds. Mr. Speaker, the first ground is that the appointment of 7 new justices was inconsistent with the suspension of the Chief Justice, stating that it was not about filling vacancies but reshaping the constitutional order. Mr. Speaker, in this country, and this is important because we as a house, we must develop the jurisprudence of this country. Never in life, Mr. Speaker, ever since I have witnessed that we have had 14 justices of the Supreme Court. This House, Mr. Speaker, and during President Akufo-Addo's era, there were 14 justices of the Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, some of them left and they were replaced. His Excellency President Akufo-Addo left office with 14 justices. Mr. Speaker, at the last minute, there were 2 justices that were supposed to be promoted to the Supreme Court. Our friends on the other side stood up and said that the 2 justices that were being added were changing Ghana and that we were boosting the Supreme Court and that they opposed that. Here we are, Mr. Speaker. As I have said, it is not that the justices are not incompetent. We have no doubt about their confidence. But, Mr. Speaker, if 2 is flouting the courts, this is the first time we are having 7 justices at a time. And 7 justices at a time, if you have 13 and we add 7, that will make 20. Mr. Speaker, are we redrafting the jurisprudence of this country or the laws of this country? Even though there are laws, and Mr. Speaker, we have never had a ceiling of the Supreme Court judges. But Mr. Speaker, if at this time we don't have any question about raising the judiciary, the bar, the ceiling to 20 and more, then, Mr. Speaker, it's about time that we redraft this in the Constitution. This is why we oppose to that. That if the other side can oppose to 2 being added to the judiciary, the Supreme Court, then 7 must not be allowed. Or else, even if the current Chief Justice is not part of it, then we would have 19, Mr. Speaker. This is unprecedented. It has never happened in the country of this country. This is our point, and this must not be allowed. I would not be surprised if tomorrow the other side would come with a proposal and flood the courts to a number that we cannot mention. To the extent that they have reached 20, now they can go to the extent of raising up is up to 30. So on this basis, Mr. Speaker, even though we have recognized what the judiciary, these special judges that have been brought before this House, their performance, and I've had direct contact with some of them. For instance, said Denis Ajay, I was in the same office with him, and I know his competence. For instance, even though Sir Justice Mensah is my junior, I practiced before him when he was a circuit court judge in Kumasi. Justice Turubaru, Mr. Speaker, was the first judge that I ever visited and did my first case before him at a court around the Kwai area called Untado Court. So we don't doubt their competence. But Mr. Speaker, a precedent is being set, and this is dangerous for the nation. And that is why we oppose to this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, the proposal is that the minority has agreed that the leader will take the time yielded by the rest to submit for and on behalf of the minority caucus. On the majority side, my instruction is to allow 2 plus the majority leader. So the proposal is for the 2 from the majority to make their submissions, then the minority leader can then come in, and then we end it with the majority leader. That is the instructions I've been given. I want to hear from your side whether you are also ceding to the majority leader or you want to take your bite before the majority leader. Then we know what to do. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, the arrangement is that the 2 will speak, then...
No. Talk about your side. I've already stated what they told me. The rest have ceded their time to the minority leader.
Yes.
So they are not going to speak again.
Yes.
It's now left of your side.
Yes.
Would you want the 2 still to speak before you, or you want?
No. So the 2 will speak, then he will speak, then I will speak last.
That's what I said.
Yes. So they should go ahead.
So we'll take the 2 from your side.
Yes.
Then you now come in, then you will end up.
That is so.
Yes, that was what I put across. Yes, so who are the 2? Honorable Minister for Education.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the motion ably moved by the First Deputy Speaker and Chairman of the Appointments Committee that this House approve the nomination of 7 justices of the Supreme Court of Ghana. And Mr. Speaker, in doing so, I just listened to my senior at the bar, who espoused and made reference to the Constitution and what the Honorable Anyimedu on what he considers best practice. Mr. Speaker, the question this House, guided by you, is to ask is 1. Is the President of Ghana, President John Dramani Mahama, legitimately and lawfully and constitutionally respecting the tenets of the Constitution? Yes, he has, and yes, he does. Mr. Speaker, may I refer you with respect to Article 1442. 1442. So President John Dramani Mahama is not doing anything than respecting the Constitution of Ghana, which in Honorable Afenyo's words and by his learning and training, the guru norm of the Republic is the Constitution of Ghana. It reads, The Chief Justice shall be appointed by the President acting in consultation with the Council of State and with the approval of Parliament, not my interest. But Mr. Speaker, Article 1442, the other Supreme Court justices shall be appointed by the President acting on the advice of the Judicial Council. Mr. Speaker, President John Dramani Mahama received lawful legitimate advice from the Judicial Council on the appointments of the 7 justices. In consultation with the Council of State, yes, there's been consultation with the Council of State before the President remitted the appointment letter. And then finally, with the approval of Parliament, this is what we are coming to do, Mr. Speaker. Parliament is coming to approve the nomination. So, Mr. Speaker, I speak in favor of the motion. And again, with respect, Mr. Speaker, I want to address the question raised by the Honorable Agyemang. I may again, Mr. Speaker, refer you to Article 128. 128. Mr. Speaker, maybe you are now arguing today. 10 years back, it's always been my view that there should be a capping and ceiling of the number of Supreme Court judges. I even made a paper for CDD with Justice Pega then. But Mr. Speaker, what does the Constitution say today? President Mahama is not operating with an anticipated Constitution in the future. He is operating with the 1992 Republican Constitution, not a future Constitution. So, Mr. Speaker, if the argument by the Honorable Agyemang and many of our colleagues is that seek an amendment to Article 128, that we have heard you, and that we all should resolve, must attract the attention of the Constitutional Review Committee, so that the Constitutional Review Committee in its work will consider providing for a capping, so that this question of whether 17, 19, 20, as he argued. But Mr. Speaker, Article 128 is crystal clear. It reads, and I quote for the record, the Supreme Court shall be 1281. The Supreme Court shall consist of the Chief Justice and not less than 9 other justices of the Supreme Court. Not less than 9. Not less than 9, mathematically, you did arithmetic. It means it can be more than 9. And 19 is more than 9. 20 is more than 9. Even 21 is more than 9. Judicial mathematics. Mr. Speaker, that is not to say I'm departing from a generally held view, which is my own view, that we should provide for a cap of a maximum of Supreme Court judges. But Mr. Speaker, until we review the Constitution, make fundamental changes to Article 128, the President is bound to respect the 1992 Constitution and its provisions. In any case, when you kept appointing justices of the Supreme Court, did you ever respect when the Ghanaian people said that lower, provide for a threshold? Today, because you are sitting opposite, you want to obstruct the right of President Mahama to appoint justices of the Supreme Court. Then, Mr. Speaker, finally, in the whole northern Ghana, Mr. Speaker, if there is a matter pending at the appeals court, they are compelled to travel to Kumasi and sometimes to Accra in search for justice. That should not be the case. That should not be the case. So not just the Supreme Court, even expansion of the Court of Appeal to the Upper West region, to the Upper East region, to the Northern region must necessarily occupy our attention. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, one of the justices talked about demystifying legal education and expanding legal education. Mr. Speaker, even into next year, we will invite this House to make allocation for the expansion of the School of Law, supported by GET Fund. A request has been received by government through Professor Raymond Atuga of the Faculty of Law, and government is giving it good attention so that into next year we expand it, so that we train more lawyers. Now, Speaker, with these comments, I beg to support the motion that this House approve the nomination of those justices of the Supreme Court, because the President has only done what is lawful within the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana and what is within his mandate as President of the Republic to appoint justices on the advice of the Judicial Council and to go through the process of the Appointments Committee. Mr. Speaker, even finally, We are talking about asset declaration. And you are asking people, I've seen even arguments that members of parliament, ministers should declare their assets publicly. Yes, if you want to do so, it's the right thing to do. But amend the constitution. If you don't amend the constitution as it is provides for the form and nature of asset declaration. If you do anything outside it, that's not acceptable. But to deepen transparency and to ensure that incomes that are earned by public officers, whether ministers or justices, are commensurate with their income, I share the view that there should be more openness in asset declaration. But as it is now, within the Constitution, we only can go through this audit service report. With this comment, Mr. Speaker, I support the motion.
Yes, Honorable James Agalga.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of the motion to approve of the President's nomination of the 7 justices as justices of the Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, the eligibility criteria or the qualification for one to be appointed to the Supreme Court is stated clearly in Article 128 of the 92 Constitution. And the relevant provision, Mr. Speaker, is 128(4), which reads as follows. A person shall not be qualified for appointment as a justice of the Supreme Court unless he is of high moral character and proven integrity and is of not less than 15 years standing as a lawyer. Mr. Speaker, this is the eligibility criteria. And the committee, by a majority decision, found that the justices in question are all eligible. In fact, they are men and women of proven integrity and have met the 15 years minimum requirement at the bar. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I know most of the justices, and I will start with Justice Jamafe. Justice Jamafe has been at the Court of Appeal for 15 solid years. In fact, at the time of his nomination, he is the longest serving Court of Appeal judge. He has distinguished himself both as a judge, serving on the bench, and as one appointed by the President to serve on a commission of inquiry which investigated the 2014 World Cup and its related issues. Mr. Speaker, said Dennis Ajay, a distinguished academic scholar, lawyer of great repute, a justice of the African Court on Human and People's Rights, is a judge whose nomination for me to serve on the Supreme Court bench was long overdue. Long overdue. Same can be said about Justice Bill Suribari. These are justices, Mr. Speaker, I have appeared before in the course of my practice as a lawyer and can corroborate the findings the committee, the Ahyafo-led committee, has made. Mr. Speaker, the minority in this House opposed the nomination of the justices to the Supreme Court, and the grounds they canvassed for so doing are captured in the statement read by the minority leader, the Honorable Afenyo Makin. And I want to read excerpts of the statement he read before the committee. Quote, "We convene while our Chief Justice sits suspended through procedurally questionable processes under Article 146 and 296. An executive that suspends one Chief Justice while installing 7 new justices is not filling vacancies, it is reshaping the constitutional order. The appearance of institutional capture is inevitable and constitutionally catastrophic. And it goes on and on and on. Mr. Speaker, this particular statement needs to be interrogated. I do not understand exactly what the minority leader meant when he sought to argue that the suspension of the Chief Justice should be the reason why justices cannot and should not be nominated to the Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, he rightly cited Article 46, which article contains the relevant provisions pertaining to the removal of a Chief Justice. And the entire statement he read before the committee, Mr. Speaker, he failed to point out which procedure, which rule of procedure provided for under Article 146 was breached or violated. Article 146 is very clear with respect to the removal of a Chief Justice. With your kind permission, Mr. Speaker, I would refer to the relevant provision. 146(6). It reads as follows. Where the petition is for the removal of the Chief Justice, the President shall, acting in consultation with the Council of State, appoint a committee consisting of 2 justices of the Supreme Court, one of whom shall be appointed chairman by the President, and 3 other persons who are not members of the Council of State nor members of Parliament nor lawyers. Then, Mr. Speaker, Clause 10 reads as follows. Where a petition has been referred to a committee under this article, the President may, in the case of the Chief Justice acting in accordance with the advice of the Council of State, by warrant signed by him, suspend the Chief Justice. So, Mr. Speaker, the procedure for dealing with petitions for the removal of a Chief Justice have been provided for explicitly. So the President takes receipt of a petition for the removal of a Chief Justice based on certain allegations. Then the President constitutes the committee envisaged under the Article 146. The committee, even before it settles down to work, some advice is sought from the Council of State. The green light is given for the suspension, and the President proceeds to suspend. Mr. Speaker, the minority leader says there are procedural breaches. Which of the procedures have been breached under 146? He failed in his statement to point out to the procedure which was breached. In fact, had the President refused or failed to suspend the Chief Justice, the President would have been in violation of Article 146, which violation could have formed the basis for his own removal, his own impeachment. He, the President, would have been the one who would stand accused for constitutional violations. So, Mr. Speaker, the point I am making is that the minority's leader's argument that justices of the Supreme Court should not be nominated or appointed merely because the Chief Justice has been suspended is not born out of the law and the facts. It's not born out of the law and the facts. Again, Mr. Speaker, the point needs to be made that if it is about filling the courts, and he talks about the systemic, he talks about what? The Supreme Court has abdicated its constitutional duty, blah, 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 repeatedly refusing to intervene. Mr. Speaker, suits were brought before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court dismissed the suits. An injunction application was moved before it, seeking to injunct the President from performing his constitutional mandate. And the Supreme Court said, no, you can't injunct the president from discharging his constitutional mandate. So the fundamental question to pose is, how did the Supreme Court abdicate its responsibility in this matter? Is it because a member from their side, the minority side, applied for the injunction application but was refused? Which is why they are now making the argument that the Supreme Court had abdicated its constitutional mandate in that sense. Mr. Speaker, several decisions were handed down by the Supreme Court. In most of the cases, the verdict was unanimous, 7-0, 5-0. We on this side never argued that the Supreme Court had abdicated its constitutional mandate. We criticized it on some of the decisions, the reasoning, but we never at any point stated that the Supreme Court, merely by sitting on a matter and declining to grant the reliefs sought, had abdicated its mandate. So, Mr. Speaker, with this, it is very clear that the statement that was made and the reasons contained therein for the decision taken by the minority to reject the nomination of the president clearly is not in conformity with the law. Maybe we can talk about the politics, but as for the law and the procedure, the president is not at fault. But Mr. Speaker, if it is about the numbers, they talk about the packing of the Supreme Court. Let us refresh our memory. President Akufo-Addo, within 8 years, appointed 15 justices of the Supreme Court. 15! And all 15 justices of the Supreme Court were approved by this House within a period of 8 years. Mr. Speaker, whilst a minority, we never argued that the Supreme Court was being subjected, or the judiciary, to state capture. We never said so. Mr. Speaker, in respect of the Court of Appeal, President Akufo-Addo alone, within 8 years, appointed 48 justices. And yet, we did not talk about the capture of the judiciary. When it comes to the High Court, Mr. Speaker, the situation is even more alarming. President Akufo-Addo appointed 113 justices of the High Court. And yet, Mr. Speaker, we never accused President Akufo-Addo of attempting to capture the judiciary. So with these numbers, the appointment of 176 justices of the Superior Court of Judicature by their own former government, it doesn't lie in their mouths to finger President Mahama merely for nominating only seven justices of the Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, 15 minus 7 is a huge number. And so, even before we get to the threshold where we can start talking about the packing of the Supreme Court, President Mahama has 8 more to go. 8. When he appoints 8 more, he would have equalized the number that was appointed by President Akufo-Addo. It is only when that happens that it will lie in your mouth to say, okay, let us cap it. Let's have a ceiling. Not until then, it is regrettable that you have refused to support the nomination of very distinguished jurists. All the nominees are justices of the Court of Appeal. In your case, we had a scenario where somebody was appointed from the High Court after having served for just a few months as a High Court judge. These are justices of the Court of Appeal who have distinguished themselves. In fact, they served on the High Court bench for so many years. Some of us appeared before them and can bear testimony to the fact that they made it to the Court of Appeal on merit and are proceeding to the Supreme Court once again on merit. Even me, as I speak, I qualify to sit on the Supreme Court bench. How much like somebody like Justice Dennis Agyemang, a Ghanaian justice who on merit made us proud by joining the African Court on Human and People's Rights. We should be proud of justices of his caliber. So, Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I support the motion. Thank you very much for this.
Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, in honor of Justice Sophia Benasco Issa and Professor Richard Frimpong, I say, the ravening clouds shall not long be victorious, they shall not long possess the sky. Mr. Speaker, upon this foundation, I proceed to make my submissions opposing the decision or the motion before this House for the approval of 7 justices to the Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, as I contribute to this report concerning appointment committee's report that vetted and is recommending 7 nominees to the Supreme Court of Ghana by majority decision, I will want this committee to first acknowledge the diligent work and detailed work of those nominees that appeared before us. Mr. Speaker, without doubt, these justices distinguish themselves. But whilst we acknowledge the diligent work of the committee and the detailed report before us, I must, Mr. Speaker, address this House on matters of profound constitutional gravity that transcend the routine consideration of judicial appointments. The report already recommends by majority decision, but the circumstances surrounding these appointments demand our most rigorous constitutional scrutiny. Mr. Speaker, this is not merely another parliamentary debate on appointments. It is a defining moment that will determine whether we remain faithful guardians of Ghana's democratic heritage or become complicit witnesses to its systematic erosion. The very foundation of our constitutional democracy hangs in the balance as we consider this report this very evening. Mr. Speaker, I dare say that there is a constitutional crisis before us. Even as we debate these appointments, our Chief Justice sits suspended through procedurally questionable processes that make mockery of Articles 146 and 296 of our Constitution. Let us be abundantly clear about what we are witnessing. It is an executive that suspends one Chief Justice whilst simultaneously installing 7 new justices. Mr. Speaker, is this a routine feeling of vacancy? No, it is rather orchestrating a fundamental reshaping of our constitutional order. And it is the reason why, without any urgency, the report was laid today and government is in a rush to take this report and use
its might in numbers to approve them. The confluence of events is neither coincidental nor constitutionally neutral. For the first time in our fourth Republican history, we face the specter of wholesale judicial transformation executed under the shadow of executive overreach. The appearance of institutional capture is not merely unfortunate, it is inevitable and constitutionally catastrophic. The framers of our 1992 Constitution, in their profound wisdom, established a carefully calibrated system of checks and balances precisely to prevent such concentration of power. Article 144 requirement for Judicial Council advice, Council of State consultation, and parliamentary approval reflect deep understanding that judicial independence requires democracy's very cornerstone. Today, we must ask ourselves with brutal honesty, are we faithful stewards of this their vision, or we are presiding over its systematic destruction? Mr. Speaker, the breathtaking hypocrisy of our friends in government is hereby exposed by their very conduct. As I stated at the opening of the vetting of the nominees, this government's hypocrisy reaches staggering heights that insult the intelligence of every thinking Ghanaian. The same NDC that relentlessly opposed the nomination of Justice Sophia Benasco-Issa and Professor Richard Frimpong Opong under President Akufo-Addo, crying incessantly that the Supreme Court was bloated, now presents 7 nominees simultaneously without a hint of shame or self-awareness. Whereas, where was their fervent concern about the court size when 2 eminently qualified justices sought appointments? Where were their constitutional principles then? This gross dishonesty and rank opportunism reveals an administration driven entirely by political calculation, not constitutional principle. When President Akufo-Addo nominated 2 distinguished legal minds, the NDC discovered urgent constitutional concern about judicial bloat. Now, with 7 nominees presented en masse, they miraculously find compelling constitutional necessity. Such breathtaking inconsistency exposes a government that treats our constitution as a political convenience, embracing principles when expedient, discarding them when convenient. This hypocrisy, Mr. Speaker, is not merely embarrassing, it is constitutionally corrosive. It demonstrates that the NDC government views judicial appointment not through the lens of constitutional fidelity, but through the narrow prism of political advantage. Such an approach threatens the very foundation of judicial independence and constitutional governance. Mr. Speaker, we must confront an uncomfortable truth about Supreme Court's recent conduct. When fundamental principles of natural justice face systematic violation in the Chief Justice's suspension, our apex court retreated into comfortable silence when constitutional courage was desperately needed. The Supreme Court's reluctance to intervene in manifestly flawed processes being used to remove the Chief Justice represents a troubling departure.
Honourable Minority Leader, please. The provision on relevance comes to play. Now you are addressing something which is different from what is before the House. You are addressing the issue of the suspension of the Chief Justice. What we have are nominees for you to give prior approval for appointment to the Supreme Court. So you focus on that one, not on the other issue. Please.
Very well, Mr. Speaker. We always take a cue from you. When confronted with the procedures that plainly offend constitutional principles, The constitutional timidity sends a chilling message about self-preservation over constitutional principle. Mr. Speaker, we ask, are these nominees going to add up to what we are already experiencing? Mr. Speaker, what is happening currently, which makes it curious for us to consider the additional nominee, is not merely disappointing, it is constitutionally inexcusable. The Supreme Court, where these nominees are supposed to join, does not exist to preserve its own comfort or avoid controversy. It exists to courageously uphold constitutional principles, especially when doing so is uncomfortable or politically inconvenient. The question is, are these nominees ready? Are these nominees ready? Mr. Speaker, we dare say that so far from what we have been experiencing, it appears that the court has abdicated its constitutional duty precisely when Ghana needs its protection most. What we have witnessed is an institution that has declined multiple invitations to exercise the courage required to restrain executive overreach. Are these nominees able to challenge executive overreach? The institutional cowardice, though perhaps humanly understandable, represents a fundamental failure of constitutional guardianship. The people of Ghana deserve better and expect these nominees to do better. They deserve justices who understand that judicial independence is not a privilege to be enjoyed, but a responsibility to be exercised with unbending resolve. Mr. Speaker, we in the minority, considering the circumstance of their appointment, whereupon the President wrote directly to the Judicial Council and even directed them to expeditiously consider his nominees, we find that it is such a rich circumstance that compromises the independence of these nominees. Mr. Speaker, the past procedure has always been that nominations will come from various interest groups within the legal fraternity. The Judicial Council will deliberate upon, make a recommendation to the President for the President to exercise his power of appointment. This is not what happened in this circumstance. Mr. Speaker, by these appointments, we hold a view that the doctrine of separation of powers is under siege. Separation of powers, details across chapter 8, 10, and 11 of the 1992 Constitution, is not an academic abstraction. It is democracy's immune system. When one branch accumulates excessive influence over another, the entire constitutional organism suffers. The independence of our judiciary is not a professional privilege granted to judges. It is fundamental right belonging to every citizen who seeks justice in our court. We dare again repeat, the circumstance of these appointments, are they going to live up to this expectation? Mr. Speaker, history teaches us that democracy Mr. Speaker, history teaches us democracy can collapse through dramatic military coup. However, in situations where there is a gradual capture of independent institutions by political forces, democracy also collapses. We must therefore vigilantly ensure that the highest court remains a temple of justice, not a forum for political convenience. Mr. Speaker, the then NDC in opposition said that there must be merits, there must be seniority in the appointments. What did we see? The same people who complain that in appointment to the Supreme Court, there must be seniority in the consideration. One of the judges said he's barely spent 2 years at the Court of Appeal. There are seniors at the Court of Appeal. So wherein lies the principles of the NDC? Wherein lies the consistency of the NDC? You attack the Akufo-Addo administration of not being fair. You had the opportunity. Did you address your so-called system of unfairness? What are you doing? Mr. Speaker, the sacred trust of constitutional guardianship is squarely in the hands of our judges. To the nominees who now await our final approval, let me say to you directly, you seek to join an institution whose legitimacy rests not on popular mandate, but on public confidence in your commitment to constitutional fidelity. If confirmed by the majority, which they are desperate to do, you will become guardians of our fundamental law, trustees of our democratic values, and protected of rights that belong to all Ghanaians, rich and poor, powerful and powerless alike. Do not be moved by the might of the government to ponder to them. Mr. Speaker, the Supreme Court's authority derives from its moral standing, not from political alignment. Citizens must believe that when they approach the courts, they encounter justices committed to the law's supremacy, not to any earthly master. This confidence, once lost, proves extraordinarily difficult to restore. And this, I would want our nominees to think deep and reflect. To our nominees, I say to you, you will inherit a Supreme Court whose reputation, by virtue of the manner of your appointment, is being brought to question. Your duty is to weather the many storms and ensure that you pass the greatest test. Your task is not merely to occupy seats on that bench, but to elevate its standing through exemplary service that demonstrates judicial appointment based on merit, not malleability. Mr. Speaker, let me, in my further submission, proceed to address Article 125 of our Constitution. Article 125 declares that justice emanates from the people and shall be administered in the name of the Republic by the judiciary, which shall be independent, emphasis, independent, and subject only to this Constitution, unquote. This independence is not abstract. It must manifest in every decision, every interpretation, and every interaction with other branches of government. True judicial independence requires both institutional courage and intellectual humility. It means deciding cases based on constitutional text and sound precedent, not political preference. The government has created an impression that it is sending these nominees merely on the basis of political preference to the Supreme Court. This we don't need as a country. The judiciary must know that in protecting minority rights against majoritarian excesses, it has to deliver judgment that thoroughly, perhaps can disappoint its appointer, because the Constitution demands nothing less. Mr. Speaker, our colleagues made allegations of court packing, and this they used to physically prevent the laying of the report in the 8th Parliament. Today, what do we see? We see a genuine public anxiety about what the NDC is doing, which questions judicial independence. These concerns can only be dispelled through demonstrated commitment to constitutional principle over political expedience. True words spoken today and judgments delivered tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, we are however happy, in spite of our opposition in principle to these nominations, we are however happy with views expressed by each of the nominees on Article 66 of our Constitution. Mr. Speaker, each one of them expressed a genuine view on Article 66 during the vetting process. When confronted with their question, all 7 of them made it unequivocally clear that there is no interpretative ambiguity arising from its language. Their unanimous position that, quote, a person shall not be elected to the office of President of the Republic for more than 2 terms, end quote, means precisely what it says, no more, no less. It's constitutionally sound and reassuring. This provision admits of no creative interpretation, and any attempt to circumvent this constitutional limitation will represent judicial legislation of the most egregious kind. We pray that they will put their words into action when they eventually get it.
Honorable Minority Leader, once again, I remind you of relevance. The subject matter before us today has nothing to do with second term or third term of a presidential decision. Relevance. Let's deal with the issues.
Mr. Speaker, with respect, Mr. Speaker, ordinarily I won't challenge you. The report captures Article 66. Mr. Speaker, my submission is coming out of the report. The report captures Article 66. But I would abide by that, Mr. Speaker, if you... Mr. Speaker, I must remind our distinguished nominees of the solemn oath they took before expressing their views to the appointment committee. They swore to speak truthfully and honestly about their constitutional beliefs and judicial philosophy. The people of Ghana witnessed their categorical statement on Article 66, and they must not be seen changing these views upon appointment to the Supreme Court by the majority. Let me be absolutely clear. The constitutional commitment they demonstrated before the committee must remain unwavering throughout their tenure at the judiciary. Citizens can only have confidence if our judges who are before us today get the courage to consistently maintain the views they express at the appointment committee hearing. Mr. Speaker, we as a parliament stand at crossroads. Today, decisions we make today will either restore public confidence in our judiciary or mark the moment when Ghana's highest court became an instrument of executive convenience rather than constitutional conscience. Let me issue this clarion call to our colleagues opposite me, who are so determined and so desperate to go through this approval process. Mr. Speaker, what we have for them, we, the minority, will not join them in their inconsistent
You may continue.
We are not going to join them in their inconsistency in principle. Future generations of Ghanaians will judge their stewardship of our constitutional heritage and complicit in its erosion. They will ask whether we possess the courage to defend judicial independence when it faced its gravest threat, or whether we chose comfortable silence over constitutional duty. History recalls that democracies died not through dramatic collapse, but through gradual institutional surrender. Each compromise, each accommodation, each failure to resist constitutional violation contribute to democratic decay. We must not be the generation that chose convenience over constitutional principle. And we say that the majority is choosing political convenience over constitutional principle. Mr. Speaker, we have already stated in page 137 of the committee's report, and same can be seen in the final recommendation at page 138. With your leave, Mr. Speaker, I beg to quote. The committee, in conclusion, all members of the New Patriotic Party, the minority, were opposed to and voted against the nomination of all the justices on the grounds that, 1, the appointment of 7 justices was inconsistent with the NDC's own principle. We don't see it as filling vacancies, but we see it as reshaping a constitutional order at the very time that they have suspended the Chief Justice and they seek to dismiss it. Mr. Speaker, we also hold a view that the Supreme Court abdicated a constitutional duty and remained silent when fundamental principles of natural justice were violated. It is one of our reasons for opposing these 7 nominations. Mr. Speaker, again, we take the NDC by their own word. In the past, they said there was a judicial bloat. What has become of that argument? What has become of those 2 justices whose vetting was completed, the report was to be laid, and the NDC in opposition, in minority, physically prevented the laying of the report. And if I should quote, the then Chief Whip, quote, Mr. Speaker, I said, Mr. Speaker, if the majority lays this report, there will be chaos in the House, unquote. Mr. Speaker, our decision in opposing and voting against all the nominees is not against the person of these nominees. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, they are eating a forbidden fruit. The fruit, the tree that is bearing them is poison. It's a poison tree. And the fruit thereof, which is they themselves, cannot be edible.
Honorable Minority Leader, may you now conclude.
Mr. Speaker, I conclude by saying that whilst we stand to rely on the rules of this House to reject these nominees, we note that even the majority with their 187 on this day that they want to push through have not been able to commandeer their numbers. They don't even have the numbers to take a decision. And Mr. Speaker, at the right time, an application will be made to challenge them that they don't have the 138 to take decision, and they cannot take decision on this matter today. I so submit, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Honorable Majority Leader,
Right Honorable Speaker, let me start by making some basic corrections of some mistakes in the report. Page 1 of the report, line 2 of the executive summary mentions 6 nominees, but there are actually 7 nominees. And that error is also repeated in page 2, line 3. So just those basic corrections. So Speaker, mine is not to bore the House with a very lengthy statement about matters that don't border on what is before us. So Speaker, what is before us is the approval of 7 nominees to the Supreme Court. As a House, our basic responsibility is to find out whether the President acted in accordance with the Constitution or not. That's the first fundamental responsibility of the House. So Speaker, Mr. Speaker, at no point has it been canvassed that the President has acted unconstitutionally. So the Constitution has been complied with. So Speaker, the second set of questions that we ask ourselves would be the competence, the capacity, and the ability of the nominees. And Mr. Speaker, I have listened to the minority leader and members of the minority side who spoke before me, and they all clearly confirm that the nominees are very, very competent. Indeed, let me repeat what the report, which they agree with, says, that upon careful deliberation, the committee notes that all the nominees demonstrated outstanding competence, deep knowledge of the law, and a firm grasp of judicial ethics. They address questions posed by the committee with professionalism, clarity, and intellectual rigor, reflecting their capacity to uphold the independence, integrity, and dignity of the highest court of the land. Mr. Speaker, this is the testimony of the committee made up of both the majority and the minority members. This part of the report is not disputed. And they add that the committee is satisfied that the nominees possess the requisite qualifications, judicial temperament, and commitment to constitutional values expected of justice of the Supreme Court. So again, the questions that the minority leader raised about whether they can uphold the independence of the Constitution, whether they can uphold the balance that is expected of the Constitution between the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, whether they can do that, that is equally answered by this paragraph, which says that the committee is satisfied. That is, the committee made up of the NDC and MPP members is satisfied that the nominees possess the requisite qualifications, judicial temperament, and commitment to constitutional values expected of justice of the Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, on the basis of this, I don't think we should belabor the point about whether or not we should approve these nominees. They are obviously qualified, capable, competent, and will do the job. And I want to assure the minority leader that all the questions that he asked us have been answered in the report. Mr. Speaker,
except to add a few things. My colleague, Honorable Agalga, has pointed out to this House that within the 8 years period, the NPP, led by President Nana Akufo-Addo, appointed 15 Supreme Court justices. 15. Appointed 48 Courts of Appeal justices. Appointed 130 High Court justices. Mr. Speaker, after making all these appointments, in the dying days of his tenure as president, he anticipated that some justices will be retiring. And in anticipation that they will be retiring, he then brought nominations to this House in order that when they retire, he will still have the numbers that he wants to have on the bench. And as a minority, we took a position that we didn't know who will become the next president after Akufo-Addo. But we believe that Akufo-Addo had had enough opportunities to fill the Supreme Court. And therefore, since it was not the case that we didn't have the minimum number to constitute a bench, he should leave the situation like that until the next president assumes office and also has an opportunity to at least appoint the two nominees that he wanted to appoint. Mr. Speaker, this really was fundamentally the basis of the objection of the minority at that time. Nevertheless, Mr. Speaker, the minority joined the majority at that time, and we vetted the two nominees. We voted the same way they voted today. They voted against, or they are voting against the nominees. We also voted against the nominees, and they voted for the nominees. A report was written. The report was brought to this House. The only reason why the nominations didn't go through was that he, as majority leader, failed to have the report taken in this House. Mr. Speaker, I am holding a copy of the report. Mr. Speaker, 38th report of the Appointments Committee on His Excellency the President's nominations for appointment as Justice of the Supreme Court, September 2024. Mr. Speaker, the report was signed by no less a person than the person who sits today as the Deputy Minority Leader, Honorable Patricia Apiaje, who was then the Vice Chairperson of the Appointments Committee. She was the Vice Chairperson of the Appointments Committee, and she signed the report. And the report recommended that the matter should be decided by this House. And he was the majority leader. And he failed to bring the report for us to take it in this House to determine the fate of the two justices. Mr. Speaker, I am surprised and baffled that a person who had such an excellent opportunity to have the two justices, two nominees to the Supreme Court taken in this House, and who failed and refused to bring the report for us to take. Today, he sits and accuses the NDC for rejecting two nominees. We did not reject them. We voted against them at committee level, and you refused to bring the report. He failed. You failed. I'm surprised. I thought you would have glossed over that part of the history of this House, because that history is against you. Mr. Speaker, I was also of the mind that perhaps we should have fewer numbers in the Supreme Court.
Mr. Speaker, I am being asked today what has changed. And I was influenced by the fact that most of my constitutional jurisprudence was taught me in the United States. So I am quite attached to the character of the U.S. Supreme Court, where we have just 9 judges. Mr. Speaker, this was my considered view. And indeed, when the Appointments Committee sat, I vehemently canvassed that view. And the Honorable Apiaje was there. I vehemently canvassed that view. Mr. Speaker, until I came across a letter written by the current Chief Justice, who explained thoroughly and satisfactorily the need for us to reconsider our view on the matter. Mr. Speaker, Justice Tokono, the Chief Justice, the suspended Chief Justice, wrote a letter on the 14th of February 2024, signed a letter in her capacity as Justice Gertrude Saki Tokono, Chief Justice at that time. Mr. Speaker, it is an 11-page letter to the President, but I will confine myself to the last paragraph and read just that. Mr. Speaker, it says that it is for the above reason that the Chief Justice requests His Excellency the President to consider the appointment of an additional 5 judges to the Supreme Court to ensure the speedy resolution of cases and speedy delivery of final decisions for the nation. This should bring the current number of the Supreme Court to 20 judges. 20 judges, including the Chief Justice. This number will enable the setting of 3 undisturbed panels of 5, 2 panels of 7 or 9 judges to work on any set of cases on a given day, depending on the jurisdiction of the court being exercised in any given week, thereby reducing the specter of constantly reconstituting panels during a day sitting and its effect on pre- and post-hearing conferences. In that letter, the Chief Justice had made a very strong and compelling case why the Supreme Court should have not less than 20 judges. 20 judges. Mr. Speaker, after reading the letter, I became convinced that the court needs to have at least 20 judges. Mr. Speaker, so I'm surprised that the minority leader, who since a petition was lodged against the suspended Chief Justice, has been a key advocate for the suspended Chief Justice, has extolled her virtues, has indicated that she's the best thing that ever happened to the jurisprudence of this country. I'm surprised that one major recommendation that she makes, that the court should be constituted by 20, we should have 20 judges, that today he's opposing her recommendation. I'm surprised that you will go to such high heavens to extol her, and yet one key recommendation, one key legacy that she sought to leave, which is recommending that we should have 20 Supreme Court judges, that you will be against that. I'm surprised. But I can understand. Having failed to process 2, you cannot understand why we on this side will succeed in processing 7 on one day. I can understand. Unfortunately, it has to happen. Today, we will approve 7 nominees to the Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, on that note, I urge colleagues to vote adopting the report. I plead with my colleagues opposite not to walk out. They should sit. Let us vote. I can see that in principle you are not against the nominees. You extol their virtues here, except that because you didn't succeed in approving the 2, you don't see why we should approve 7. But that is our luck. That is our luck. You have to live with that. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, at the conclusion of the debate, the question is, as many as are in favor of the motion, say aye. Those against, say no. Honorable members, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted. This Honorable House has accordingly approved the nominations of His Excellency the President of the following persons as Justices of the Supreme Court in accordance with Article 1442 of the 1992 Constitution, respectively. Honorable members, the judges involved are Justice Senyo Jamafe, Justice Sir Dennis Dominic Agyemang, Justice Biel Simon Surbare, Justice Philip Bright Mensah, Justice Janapari Ajwa Batels Kuju, Justice Hafisata Amaliboba, and Justice Kweku Tewia Aka Bofu. Honorable members, on your behalf and on behalf of the Parliament of Ghana, I congratulate the 7 judges for the recognition, for the public hearing, and for the prior approval given by this House. I recommend them into the hands of His Excellency the President to proceed to appoint these judges as Justice of the Supreme Court of Ghana. Yes, Honorable Habib.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I struggled to catch your eye before you put the question. Mr. Speaker, and I want to draw your attention to Standing Order 139. And Mr. Speaker, I'm fortified by the Constitution in Article 104.1. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I'll just read. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I'll just read Article 104 of the Constitution.
Mr. Speaker, except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by vote of majority of members present and voting, with at least half of all the members of Parliament present. Mr. Speaker, I struggle to catch your eye. And Mr. Speaker, at the time you were putting the question, we were not up to 138. Mr. Speaker, we were not up to 138 to form a decision quorum. And Mr. Speaker, the decision of the voice vote, Mr. Speaker, in this respect, Mr. Speaker, however loud, it wasn't 138. Mr. Speaker, I struggle to catch your eye, but no matter how loud the yeah was, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, no matter how loud, I had done my counting, and before raising this issue, and Mr. Speaker, we were 128. Mr. Speaker, we were not up to 138 as a decision total. And Mr. Speaker, I invite you, Mr. Speaker, I invite you as a constitutional matter has been raised with regard to the decision that we have just taken. And I urge you, Mr. Speaker, to trigger the necessary process to satisfy Article 104 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, I so submit.
Honorable member, you have your standing orders with you. Do you have your standing orders with you? Do you have? Please kindly read Order 1262. Please, may you be on your feet and read the order to the hearing of everybody. Please, honorable member, be on your feet. Read
Mr. Speaker,
Order 1262.
Mr. Speaker, Order 162. 162. Mr. Speaker, Order 1262 reads, whenever the Speaker addresses the House, any member standing shall immediately resume the member seat. And the Speaker... Oh, let me finish. Mr. Speaker, I don't know. Mr. Speaker, they are disrespecting your directives. So let me read. Mr. Speaker, 1262. Whenever the Speaker addresses the House, any member standing shall immediately resume the member seat, and the Speaker shall be heard in silence. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, please. Honorable members, can you, honorable member,
Mr. Speaker,
were you on your feet when I was addressing the House?
Mr. Speaker, I was on... Mr. Speaker, a majority with a lot of first-timers, that is how they behave. I can understand. Mr. Speaker, with respect, Mr. Speaker, you were making a ruling and I needed to draw your attention to a constitutional matter. So, Mr. Speaker, I was on my feet, and if I offend the others, Mr. Speaker, I know you are a father, and certain things you guide me, but I was drawing your attention to a constitutional matter. That's why I was on your my feet. So, Mr. Speaker, if I offend you with this order, I sincerely apologize to that. Because, Mr. Speaker, it was not an address. I
I know that you were making a ruling, and I needed to draw your attention to a constitutional matter. So I didn't take it as an address, but I sincerely apologize.
Honorable member, what ruling was I making?
Mr. Speaker, the decision on the voice votes.
Is that my ruling?
Mr. Speaker, my understanding...
Your understanding of me announcing the decision of the House amounts to my ruling?
Mr. Speaker, I was on my feet before you announced the decision. So in your announcement, I wanted to catch your eye to draw your attention to a constitutional matter. And that they don't have 138. But Mr. Speaker, like I said, if I offend you, I apologize sincerely. But it was a constitutional matter that I was raising, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, don't allow yourself to be misled by any person. I'm using your own answers to ask the questions. Using your own answers to ask the questions. So don't be misled by any person. I want to advise that in many of these situations, please don't react, respond. There's a vast difference between reaction and responding. You can cross-check. What you were doing was to react because somebody is misleading. Honorable members, with your kind permission, I want the First Deputy Speaker to take the chair. At least I need to, for health reasons, have at least stretch my limbs. I've been sitting for hours. In the meantime, is there any other business? Yes, Majority Leader.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, if we can take 19, item 19. 19.
Honorable Minister for Interior. Honorable Minister for Interior, were you on a point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I was on a point of relevance. Mr. Speaker, our colleague, the Deputy Whip, was emphasizing and repeatedly was putting into the records of this House that at the time that he took the vote, the members in the chamber were around 120. Mr. Speaker, I can say in confidence, those of us in the chamber are more than 170. So it should not go into the record that we were less than the number 139 to take decision. We shouldn't let that stand in the record because the way he kept repeating it, if we did not challenge it, for it to be recorded in the official records of the House that it is not true that we were 120, it will stand in the record as though you did the wrong thing. And Mr. Speaker, I think you did the right thing. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members,